Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the East Lyme Board of Finance special meeting of Thursday, May 14th, 2020. The time is now 6:31 p.m. We will begin with old business in just 1 minute. I just want to make a quick comment regarding an email that I had received from a member of the public, Amy Anderson. She asked me to forward that email on to all of the Board of Finance members, which I did, and that will become part of the public record along with these meeting minutes this evening. So with that, we're going to dive right in and resume where we left off last night. So old business, review, discussion, and possible action on 2020-2021 town budget. We left off last night with Department 217, the Niantic Fire Department. So I'm going to open the floor up for any comments, questions, concerns, changes. I did notice that there were no Board of Selectmen recommended changes for this particular department. Is that true, or is this building maintenance for $8,000? I'm going to take that back. It looks like there was one recommended reduction to building maintenance for Department 217 in the amount of $2,000. That would be account 217 200 222.
Yes, I see that.
Mm-hmm. Is everybody good with that recommended change?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any additional recommended changes from the Board of Finance? We do have Chief Dwyer on the call with us, so I can bring him in if anybody has any questions. So if there are no questions, shall I move on to Department 218? Okay, hearing no questions, I'll move on to Department 218, Flanders Fire Department. There is a recommended Board of Selectmen reduction for that particular department in the amount of $2,000 for radio maintenance. Is everybody in agreement with that recommended change from the Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Rich
Okay.
has a question. Yes.
Rich, you have a question?
No, I just was agreeing.
Okay.
Agreement with it.
Okay. Does anybody else have any additional questions, concerns? We also have Chief Ricks on the phone. I could call him in.
Just my quick question. I guess I'm unmuted. Okay. The increase for the wages, it looks like, I'm assuming that's to man things like 24/7 now. Is that correct?
Yes, the added money into the part-time account is to give us now 24/7, 365 days a year, which will begin extra shifts Friday and Saturday overnights.
Okay. Got it.
And the other salaries are all contractual obligations.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns for Department 218? Okay, hearing none. We will move on to, I believe we already did animal. Did we do animal control? I believe we did. No?
You did it on Saturday. Maybe that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, just with the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we talked about the police last night, But we didn't get to animal control last night, right?
No.
Right.
Okay, okay. So let's move on to
Do you want
animal.
to cover emergency management and fire marshal?
Did you do fire marshal? 224?
Yeah.
Yes.
224?
So 224 is actually Department 214 now, right, Anna?
So
Yeah, and we,
what we did is in the past, emergency management and the financial had been one department, 224. So as we were working on the budget process and with hiring a new fire marshal, it just came clear to us that it made sense to carve the two departments apart. So we renumbered emergency management, Department 214, and fire marshal is remaining in 224.
I see that now. I see that page under
Yes.
department. Does everybody see Department 224 now?
Yes.
Thank you, Rich, for pointing that out. I would have missed that. Public Safety Fire Marshal. So let's see, are there any recommended changes? No recommended changes that I can see from the Board of Selectmen, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So does this Board of Finance have any additional questions, concerns, comments, changes?
Looks good to me.
Looks good to everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm
Once,
good.
going twice? Okay, great. No changes to Department 224 Public Safety Fire Marshal. Now we'll move on to 226 Animal Control.
Yes.
I think that's next. There are no recommended changes from the Board of Selectmen on this department. Does this Board of Finance have any questions, concerns, or changes?
It's a small budget.
Peter said small budget, so I'm assuming you're good with it as presented. Everybody good as presented?
Yes.
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 Okay, great. No changes to Department 226 Animal Control. Let's move on to Department 317 Public Works, Highway, and Sanitation.
So it looks like on that one, the Board of Selectmen had some recommended reductions. I don't know what it is. Regular PR highway reduced by $33,914. I'm not sure what PR is. Are
Anna, what
people
is
okay with that?
what does PR stand for? Regular PR payroll? Is that payroll?
It looks like.
That's
Yes,
correct.
it's account 311, so that's regular payroll.
That's the weight on the new hire. So that had to be reduced.
Correct.
Okay, and the next one was a new account called Traffic Calming. Mark Nickerson, I think you were going to, did you speak to this the other day? What that
Yes.
account for? Would you like to just give us another quick overview of it?
Give you another one. We were hoping to with the task force we put together with so many complaints about traffic, about speeding traffic, and in all neighborhoods, not just beach neighborhoods, and our through roads like Riverview and East Pat and Black Point Road and Giants Neck Road. Those are highways, and we were looking for traffic calming measures, whether it's signage, extra signage, whether it's speed bumps in the slower areas, like you picture some of those side streets where people have little eighth of an acre lots and there's so many houses, and those little streets around New Black Point or Crescent Beach and all that, putting speed bumps in, more of those signs we talked about, beginning the traffic calming measures. It's just not the year for it. We are cognizant of the idea. We're trying to keep the budget as low as possible. This is a new initiative. I don't think it's a wish. I think it's a need. I don't think it's a want. I think the people are screaming for it, and we need to do something. Of course, an extra cop's going to help. But when we go to, a cop can only be in one place. Slowing down traffic down constantly is another issue. We go back to the fact that we had speed bumps in this town and we tore them all out. It's not good. The plows dig them up. They require a lot of maintenance. And if you live across the street from the speed bump, you're going to hear everybody's brakes hit and then accelerate. And it increases the complaints of those as well. But anyway, what we're doing is bringing it down to 5,000. We will put some signage up, and we will buy one of those electronic signs to replace one that is dead. And that will give us a start.
Okay, thank you. In that department, store materials and supplies are also being reduced by another $5,000. That would be account 317, 300, 440.
The salt shed is filled right now. We had a mild winter. We used quite a bit of it in the early part of the winter. We had a lot of icing. We had a lot of issues with that. Stupid storms that would start at 3 a.m. and the timing would just be awful. But so we had to lay it down a lot of salt and all that. But we filled up the salt shed. We're not going to have to do that, assuming, knock on wood, we have a regular average winter. There's been times where we've doubled our quantity. But anyway, we think we have some leftover material, and that's why we saved $5,000.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, there's a recommended reduction of $2,000 for the street lights.
All right, we took all the maintenance of that in-house. We're saving a couple $1,000s, we think, on that. We were hiring a contractor to go out. We get a call the street light is not working. We then call the contractor who would go eventually on his route to fix it. We're going to do it in-house now. We call an electrician. They go up within a couple days and fix the stuff. We are saving money by doing it that way, and we're giving the $2,000 back.
Okay, so I think when Joe Brugat presented this budget to us, if we take into consideration those recommended reductions from the Board of Selectmen, his 1.45% increase in his budget actually goes into the negative territory. So appreciate the effort to trim a little from this budget. It's one of the largest ones in town. So I'm good with all of those recommended reductions. I'm glad we're keeping the $5,000 in for, traffic calming. I think there have been a few very bad accidents in town as well. So I'm hoping some of these initiatives will help improve safety in our town. So I'm good with those reductions. How does everybody else feel? Good? Good to go?
Just one question on the traffic calming. I agree with that it's a bad year to implement it. I also agree that it's necessary to implement it. Is there going to be any way to gather information from those signs that we can say, okay, we invested X number of dollars in the traffic calming and the average speed in town decreased by 5% or something like that, just to kind of justify the expense moving forward? I see this as an easy target moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can have a baseline and then start comparing it. These things are data rich. That, as you heard, that Joe can set this thing up and then tell the cops when the average speed rises. It might be no offense to the soccer moms up there, but it might be when the moms are right. We all left 5 minutes late for school almost every day of the week, and you're rushing to get to the middle school or the high school, and you're dropping the kids off. And yes, guess what? You go ask those people on Lover's Lane. If people are speeding by your house trying to get to the high school, yes, they are. And it's during those times. But can we create a baseline that we know we're effective? Yeah, I bet that can be done over time.
I'm just seeing this as an easy target to go after for reducing funds, and if that kind of data is there, at least you have something to weigh it against rather than just, I don't know, they're still speeding by my house,
So,
She just brings up a point that we're going to be able to realize where to put the
Yeah.
police officer. You know, we need it over here today because we have an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think,
So,
I think the chief is telling us that
Yeah.
the answer to your question is yes.
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the other thing with the when you see the sign, at least when I see it, I'm thinking, oh, there's probably a cop there. And even if I'm going the speed limit, I'm going to slow down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even more. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, there's probably a cop there. You know.
Right.
So I think that's what people think too.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether
Well, yeah, I
they're
understand
speeding,
that. I'm
they're
just
going to
talking
slow
about it
down.
in terms of a budget item. I see it as an easy one to attack and go after. And if you have the data, then it justifies the need to remain in the budget moving forward. I'm thinking years down the line.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is if they're giving tickets and they're making money for the town. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So-
Well, the volunteer task force that came together last year, part of this is part of that 20,000 was going to be those small little signs that
Yeah.
slow down, enjoy our town signs that we were trying to dip into the consciousness, the guilt into each and every one of us that probably drives a little faster than they should sometimes. And you look down and you slow down. It's a constant reminder, but also plays into hey, this is your town. What are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing? Other people live here. And we were, it wasn't going to be just that one simple sign. We had a whole campaign to roll out. We just won't have the money this year to do it, but we'll do it.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, Mike just chatted something here. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
This is the officer working on traffic.
Yeah.
Better enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay, that from Chief Finkelstein. Okay, thanks. So all of those recommended reductions to Department 317 Public Works totals $55,914. Are we good with those recommendations?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Okay, great. So on my list, next is Department 418, Commission on Aging. There were no recommended reductions from the Board of Selectmen, from what I can see. Does anybody else have any questions, concerns, changes, proposed changes? Anybody from the Board of Finance? Oh, what is 418? I think it's not on our list of recommended changes from the Board of Selectmen, the 312,544. But when we were going through the budget presentation, I believe that that Mark, did you say that the new account program subsidy for $8,000 could possibly be reduced this year because we're not going to have a lot of programs? This would be
I think
under operating expenses.
Kathy probably said that. And we also talked about the vacant position that we were nearly close to rehiring, probably isn't going to be rehired as of July 1st. And maybe we can delay that 2 months. And I know, Camille, you were doing some calculations on what the savings would be on that. So maybe if we aimed for 2 months off of the annual salary for the program, no, not the program instructor, the
Coordinator?
The program coordinator.
program coordinator.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking pushing it out 6 months because I don't think they're going to be having that many programs, especially with the elderly. I think people are going to be in. So I didn't know if you could push it out 6 months. That was my thought on it.
So I had asked Kathy Wilson when she was presenting what the anticipated annual salary for that was, and she indicated $53,779.
Correct.
So if we push it out, say 6 months, that would be a savings of $26,890. So I think I think, Mark, you also indicated that you had issues with interviewing because of the shutdown. So even when that gets lifted, I imagine it would be maybe a few months before somebody comes on board, they get trained. I mean, I'm good with 6 months. I mean, I think that's a good chunk of change that we could save. You know, because it's not likely programs would be rolled out right away, I'm thinking. How does everybody else feel? Can anybody else support a 6 month?
I've got an additional comment to that.
Sure, Richard.
When I last spoke to Kathy, it sounded as though a major focus of this new position would be to direct towards online programming, similar to what the Groton Senior Center has. And Kristen's position was more a direct face-to-face type program activities coordinator. I don't know if the candidates that were interviewed with the technology aspect in mind. And I don't know how far along the interviewing process went, whether you had selected a prime candidate or if it was down to a few or where in the process it was. But with a little bit of change of focus, if the interviewing process is still going on, I think the 6 months is a reasonable time.
So I
Okay.
have one, I have
Yes.
one other thought. It seemed from Kathy's Wilson's presentation, you know, she's been a very busy lady for the town, and it seemed as though, you know, she was relying on this person in the past, and the person had left. I don't know that whole situation, but going forward, she seemed to be concerned, in my mind, to have a need to begin this sort of remodeling of her programs. And I'm not so sure with all the other stuff that she's doing right now that, you know, that's going to be possible without a second set of hands. So in my mind, maybe at least September, you know, that would give at least a delay of maybe refocusing the interview process as Rich suggested, but not wait until wintertime, you know, because I think, you know, I think Kathy's trying to capture the prior participants in just a different way, in the virtual way, or I talked to her about the reduced classes. So I think, you know, for me anyway, with all of these programs, whether it's Parks and Rec or, you know, Commission on Aging, Senior Center, there's definitely a need to navigate, redo, rebuild the programs. So I'm just a little wary of waiting until January. September might be maybe a better thing.
If Kathy gets
Well,
sick,
Kathy has been actually operating in this capacity without this position being filled since last November or December, I believe. So
December-ish, yeah.
yeah, we've gone some time without it. And I think that if these were normal times, I would say, sure, let's put it in the budget as of July 1st. If they don't get hired by then, fine, you know, we'll have some savings. But just given the environment that we're in, I'm comfortable with the 6 months.
Well,
So
I
who
think
did
that
we
there's
not
going
hear
to,
from? I don't think we heard from Peter. Did you have an opinion on this, Peter?
I don't know. I'm gonna kind of ally with Ann Santoro and cut it down the middle, kind of do the compromise thing.
Okay.
You know, delay but not delay 6 months. I think you know, waiting till winter already begins to start programming, I think it's too late. But I'm going to take the compromise route on this one.
Okay, and John Birmingham, I don't think we heard from you.
Yeah, I think you're saying 6 months, January or December?
Yeah.
Which one? This is
January.
May, 6 months from now. is
6
May.
months would be January 1st.
Oh, that's right. But no, I think that's too long. I think I agree with Ann and Peter.
Okay, so we have 4, that's fine, that's all I need to know. We're not making a motion on this, I'm just trying to get some consensus of, you know, if everybody can come to an agreement before we make the motion, then it should go really smoothly. So looks like we have 4 people saying 3 months and 2 people saying 6. So we'll go with 4. So let's do this. I will give you a number for that, Anna Johnson. If the salary is 53,779. Give me a second. A formula, please.
And if I can just add, Kristen did an incredible job there. Those are some awfully big shoes to fill. And an important aspect of this is we really need to have the virtual aspect for the candidate.
Okay.
And today I just learned about Groton has a real nice Zoom program from their senior center on, they've got things like Name That Tune and various amounts of activities that seniors can do, not requiring a computer. They can even just use their phone to get in. And it's open to the whole region, not just Groton. So I think we can follow suit because our senior center has been an excellent, excellent resource.
So with that in mind, and based on what you said, I totally agree with you, especially because our seniors are getting more IT savvy. We can't even start to plan IT programming until September or October to start even planning it. We give the Board of Ed $55 million. We give the seniors in our community $250,000. And it's the one thing we do for our seniors. Yes,
Yep.
they use the library.
It's
Yes,
great.
they go to the beach. Just keep
Yep.
that in mind when you're making all these cuts.
Yep. No, that's great, Mark. Thanks for that. We've already come to consensus. The number, Anna Johnson, is 13,445. That would be if we were to delay for 3 months
That doesn't sound right.
on that position rather than the 6. So this is account 418,100,311.
So did you say 13,445?
Yes.
Okay, yes, that's correct.
And question, is that's taking into consideration the FICA calculation and everything else?
No.
That's just the wages
Okay.
at this point.
Oh, right, because you have to do that back in the other department. Okay. Thank you.
So so the last item that we talked about briefly was 418,300-new, the program subsidy, which the first selectman corrected me. He said that was actually offered up by Kathy herself the other night.
I believe so.
How do people feel about that? Recommended, not a recommended, but if we had to, that would be a spot. Focus on. The detail in the budget book says program subsidy while programs are moved from GF to SRF. I guess that's that's general fund to special revenue fund. Line item to be phased out and amount lowered over the next 2 years. Not included in budget to Board of Selectmen included. So it wasn't in, so my understanding would be then it wasn't in Kathy's original budget, but then the Board of Selectmen put it in. Would that be a correct statement, Mark?
It was inadvertently left off of her budget. When we were cutting things from her budget, we had decided to put $8,000 in. I think it was an 8,000, right? I'm losing my place here. And we forgot, then we got to the Board of Selectmen and we said, oh, we have to add that back in. Some seniors can't afford the full cost of programming. And the idea would be to subsidize just a little bit for some of the seniors who might want to take a chair yoga class or some cognitive thinking class. And that's what that's there for.
Was that intended to be for the full year?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a compromise. Why don't we take 4,000 of it to represent 6 months until that can get up and running after the shutdown lifts? Can anybody get on board with that? Not taking the whole 8,000, but maybe just taking 4? Can anybody get on board with that? Okay, so I'm only seeing 2 hands. So how many people would like to see that remain at 8?
Which I was doing something else. Which line item are we talking
Okay.
about?
Sorry, Peter, this is in Department 418, Commission on Aging.
Yeah.
It's 300 operating expenses. And then about 5 lines down, it's labeled as new, program
Oh.
subsidy, $8,000.
Okay. I don't know. We just whacked her on the staff. I don't want to whack her, too much more. I think is kind of
Okay.
where I'm coming from. One or the other.
So who
Would
would
like
like
to
to
do
see that remain at 8,000? Show of
I would.
hands. Okay,
Okay.
great then. Okay. So that brings Kathy's budget down to 21,445. Is that what you have, Anna?
Oh, you're talking about the reductions.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Forget that 8,000. The reduction to the Commission on Aging budget is just the 13,445.
Right.
That's all,
Yes.
right? Okay, and everybody was good with that? So then we will move on. Quick discussion, and I mean quick discussion on Department 419, Health and Welfare.
Good.
We talked about them.
Yep, this was our, we had some discussion during the budget presentation. Is everybody good with just leaving that as is?
Yep.
Okay, good. No changes to Department 419, Health and Welfare. With that, let's move on to the library, Department 420. The library staff voluntarily offered up a salary increase, a reduction to their proposed salary increase. They went from 2.5% increase, which everybody else in town is getting, down to 2%. And that would be a savings of $9,072. Personally, I'm not comfortable with that. Because I think if we're going to limit increases for some of our town employees, then we limit it for everybody. So if we're not willing to do that, I would like to give that $9,000 back. These people are not the highest paid people in our town. It was very generous of them to offer that reduction, but they are not the highest paid people in town. So to take away, I just don't feel good about that. So I would propose putting the money back. Is anybody with me?
Yeah, I would say do that.
My only question is, it wasn't cut by the Board of Selectmen. It was something that they offered up.
True, they offered it up.
Mark, do you have any idea what her thinking was when she did that?
The board of directors offered it up. Don't forget, they're not a town employees. It's the board of trustees, whatever I think they call themselves trustees. And in looking at what they're paying out for salaries and benefits, they thought that was an appropriate adjustment. They are their employers. They are the employers of the people that work at the library.
What are your thoughts on it, Mark?
Sometimes they get larger increases than some of our unions. Things fluctuate every once in a while. I think they're just in a state where this makes sense for them. I don't sit on that board. I'm not the ex officio either, so I wasn't part of the conversation. I don't like to try to anticipate or guess what is in people's heads. They're going to keep their employees. This was offered, and I don't think it weighs anything on contracts that the town has negotiated with unions. I think it's a total different animal. but that's fine. You know,
Let-
again, they can pay them whatever they want. It's kind
Yeah,
of like,
no, I understand. I'm just trying to get some insight, you
Yeah.
know, that's all.
we kind of go over their budget line by line, but in actuality, they're like the Board of Ed. You give them money, they can spend it anywhere they want to spend it.
Yeah.
So,
You know, it kind of looked to me a little bit like the situation with various foundations that we support through the town who voluntarily decided, whether it was Brian Daigle Foundation not to take the $1,000, you know, similar. So it wasn't a directive. It came from the heart from them that they wanted to do that. I mean, I thought this was a great gesture. I wasn't, and in my mind, you know, I really didn't think to not take their gift, kind of. And then the other sort of offsetting information that Lisa Timothy pointed out was that their foundation money that they would just, the number came in the day before we had our presentation. That number was 4,000 higher than she had put in the booklet. So in my mind, and I said, well, you know, we'll leave that alone. It's a crazy year, but this could, you know, I mean, at least in terms of their operations, you know, we're not cutting more there or anything like that. So that sort of softens this in some regard as well, even though this is a wage issue here, you know. But I thought of it as more of a gift, and you know, appreciated the gesture.
I will mention that we have two further adjustments in the public library budget this year. One is we are going to downwardly adjust the health insurance because that was not originally calculated. Their budget included the 9% originally projected increase to health insurance, and we know that that's down to a 4.5%. That's what we've been averaging for everybody else. So that alone would save the town $9,900, which more than covers that salary give back. And also, Anna, if you could please speak to the additional reduction that you were referring to in the amount of $48,460, what that further reduction from the public library would be.
I'm not, so with the library, their the amount they had in their budget for their annual required contribution for the pension plan was $52,000. That needed to be $59,378. So we needed to increase that by $7,368. They had their health insurance in at $239,800, and they only need $165,000. So that would be a decrease of $74,800. So the net effect of the increase and the decrease is $67,432.
The net decrease is how much?
$67,432.
Wow.
$67,432 includes the health insurance adjustment and the wage reduction.
No, that includes an increase to the town retirement, their annual required contribution, and a decrease to the health insurance.
And I'm sorry, could you tell me what the net number was again?
For the health insurance decrease and the retirement increase, it's a decrease of $67,432.
And break it out again for me, please. Well, actually, this doesn't matter because we don't have the detailed line items in our budget. It would just be a net reduction off their total. So I won't get into the details there. So a net reduction of $67,432.
So then if you added the salary decrease, that would be a decrease of $76,504.
We want to add it back. So that $67,000 would be less of a give back.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood. I thought you were going to leave it out, but you're going to add that back in?
Well, let's do this again. So given the additional decrease in the public library budget of $67,432, can I get anybody to support me in my desire to give them back that 0.5 percentage point increase in their salaries?
Who would do that?
I'm on the fence.
Really?
Yeah, we cut seniors and then we're gonna give money back in salaries to the library. It just doesn't, something doesn't seem right, and I'm not sure I'm comfortable with it. I understand the overall budget increase.
The only reason why we're cutting from the seniors is because there's no program,
Yeah,
because of the
Yeah.
shutdown. So they're still going to get their subsidy,
well, I don't
but
know
they'll
that
get
they're
the
not doing
subsidy
anything.
when the programs are running.
I don't
They're
know
not
that
running now.
I don't know that they're not doing anything right now. But it just that's my discomfort. So I'm kind of I don't, that's my discomfort.
I guess, Camille, the quandary that I'm in is that the foundation had set this at 2% rather than a 2.5% raise. And that's their governing body. And it was a voluntary give back. So
It doesn't pay. So it doesn't pay to be nice.
No, I think
It doesn't pay at all to be nice. That's what I'm hearing.
Nice, but they're still getting an increase in salary. No, it's not like they're going with a flat salary.
My feeling is that they were trying to help us with our budget, and they're going to give back over $9,000. They must feel that they can live with that. So if they're going to help us reduce the budget totally, why?
That was before that. They probably offered that up before they realized that these other adjustments, if the Board of Selectmen are asking everybody to take a look at their budgets and see what they could come up with for a reduction, I think it's pretty selfless that they didn't hit, the books line item or some other service to the patrons. They took that upon themselves. So I'm sure that they did that well before they understood that there would be a reduction in their budget already based on these two other factors, the health insurance and the retirement. What was that line item Anna called? I didn't write it down.
It's the retirement account. They label it town retirement.
Retirement, 57.
So that's true that they didn't know they were going to get this 60. Their budget was going to be decreased by that 67,000 is new money. I mean, that wasn't known when they made this decision.
Probably not, if the numbers are the other numbers. Do you know what I mean? They didn't put those numbers in. They hadn't decreased it. So I wouldn't think so.
We just heard Anna say that's correct. When they offered up this decrease in their budget because we were looking for ways to reduce, they weren't yet aware that there would be this $67,000 savings in other areas. So I would think that if we were to go back to them, they would say, yes, please, we'd like our money back. And I only say that, I'm sorry, Ann, go ahead. I've spoken.
I was going to say, it's the board of directors did it, but they probably didn't poll all the actual workers who are working. Do you know what I mean? So the governing body may have done it, but it doesn't mean the actual people getting paid, wanted to do it, is the way I'm looking at it.
I think I'd be a little careful here. I think we're speculating that, they knew this, they didn't know that, they told their workers not. I would be shocked if the board of directors of the Library of East Lyme did not have a conversation with their employees. This is what's down the pipe for you. I'm sorry, that's highly speculative. And in my mind, it's a wonderful gift. You know, and I also think that, you know, they're not going to go back, obviously, and look at their numbers and understand the 9% versus 4.5% health insurance. If they felt they had to cut, they would have gone to supplies. They would have gone to, you know, if you're going to speculate, you have to speculate a little rationally here. They would have gone to, for example, you know, books, because they know that they usually kind of underestimate their foundation money because they don't know what they're going to get. And it's been a couple of good years. So, you know, I think just let it be. I think it's a wonderful act of generosity that they must just discuss in full. And I would imagine that as a, you know, as a public entity, a library, and the people that work for a library often are of a mindset to give back. I mean, that's the way these people think. So I think we need to respect that. It's just like, to me, it's very much like Mr. Daigle's and his wife's gesture to not take that money. You know, they're very, you know, oriented to the community. And, you know, I don't think we should second guess their generosity and their good spirit. I'm sorry. That's all I have to say.
Well, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, so I'd say leave it as it is.
So when we revisit the other departments, then I'll probably make motions to reduce salaries in other departments to limit that to a 2% increase. That would be my take. So this could be a very long evening. I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel. I think it's taking advantage of some folks that are very good, you know, very collaborative and
We're not
kind.
They offered the money. They felt that they could do without it. So
I mean, perhaps Mr. Nickerson can
vote.
speak. I don't think anyone, I'm sorry, John, go ahead, finish.
No, listen, why don't we just vote on it now instead of talking about it? We can talk all night about it.
Okay.
It definitely was not something that the town requested of them, you know. So.
The town, Mark Nickerson, did you ask the library to go back and look for further reductions? Honestly?
Yes. Always
Okay,
on.
thank you.
But
Yeah, all departments to come back and look at their budgets and find ways to trim it. You know what? Give them the 9,000. They won't necessarily have to put it to wages, but we've cut that library down so hard over the last bunch of years. Give them the 9,000, and if they choose, because it's their decision, not ours, where the money will be put and what the rate of pay will be.
All right, that's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
That's an excellent way of looking at it.
That's a good way of looking at it.
That might
so
be
that
my
it
favorite thing you've said this whole process, Mark.
Come on. Probably for the last year or so.
I can, you know, I can live with that. I can live with that because
We've killed that library, and they're
Yeah,
we have.
Okay, so
Libraries.
given that,
This would be much
given
easier
all
if we were
that,
talking to the library.
who can support giving back those wages?
I will support giving back $9,000. Okay.
And then the
Yes.
foundation can decide where it goes, or the library
Yeah.
director.
Yes.
Just a flat 9,000.
It's a good compromise.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was it before? What did I say it was before?
It was 9,072, right?
I mean, it's still the same amount. It's just the way they're not giving it back for wages. We're just giving it back to them, and then that way they can funnel it where they want to.
Right. Then we're not second guessing their what they're doing.
Yeah, we're not second guessing their motivation. It's not speculative.
It was $9,070.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will leave that at $9,000. Okay, good, thank you. So this is for Anna and I to work out. Anna, the credit of 9,000 plus the 67,432. Wait, tell me the breakdown. I'm sorry. tell me the breakdown of the 67,432 again, please.
Okay, so it's a decrease of $74,800 to health insurance, and it's
74,800.
an increase of $7,368 to the annual required contribution for the pension plan. So it would be a decrease of $67,432.
Bear with me while I do a little calc here. So okay, trying to do two computers at once. So the bottom line adjustment for Department 420, the library, is a give back to the town of 58,432. Is that your number, Anna?
No,
$74,800 give back for the health insurance. A $7,368 add back for the town retirement, and $9,000 for the GWI.
but see, effectively, you're removing that decrease and only decreasing the net of the health insurance and the pension. So it's really a decrease to that department of $67,432.
Oh, that's right, because that was a recommended reduction from the Board of Selectmen, and we're working off the original budget, which did not include that.
Yes.
I gotcha. Okay, thank you. So we are not basically accepting the $9,072. We're only accepting $72, right? If we round the gift back down to $9,000, we still are reducing their budget by $72. So did we just give them back the $9,072?
Yes,
Keep it simple.
yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Yes, I think if you're going to do that, then keep that clean, for sure.
Keep it clean. All right. So
Keep it
then,
clean.
Anna, $67,432 reduction in the Department 420, the library. Okay, great, terrific. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. With that, we'll move on to Department 421, Parks and Rec. All right, the Board of Selectmen had a number of recommended reductions for Parks and Rec. $5,548 to eliminate the spraying for the mosquitoes.
He said that the ledge light said it wasn't necessary. That's what I remember.
It's not determined yet. And we know that if it does happen, it's going to be upwards of 50, 60, 70,000, not 5,000. So we figured it was a moot point at this point, and a drop in the bucket.
Okay.
So we're taking it out for now. We hope it's not necessary. I don't want to tell everybody it's okay to go outside and then go back inside again. We're living in that world, and that's very, very, very possible. And then by the time it's ready to go outside again, it'll be the fall time. They're talking about the second wave. So they are testing for mosquitoes right now for Triple E. It's a serious thing. When we have what we had last fall, it's more than likely we're going to get it again. But we also know there might be some DEEP money for spraying. There might be some mass spraying, like aerial spraying, like they do in Massachusetts, on an annual basis. There might be all sorts of things. So we're just waiting and seeing.
Yeah.
on that.
So if we were to, you know, in the unfortunate circumstance where we would have to spray and it would be 50 or 60, that would be something that you would be looking to take out of contingency?
The contingency, or maybe we'll get some FEMA money back by then, and we'll look to the Board of Finance and go, hey, we got some of this money. Now it's time for the next emergency. Can we apply it? You know, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But there's no sense taxing people right now, sticking it on our budget on an item that we're not sure we're going to need or not. And if we are going to need it, it's going to go crazy.
Crazy. Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm okay with that. Everybody else okay with that?
Yeah, I am.
Next is, there really isn't an explanation for a reduction in the maintenance for 2,501 or the materials for 1,500. But maybe that was just a general, let's just try to shave some money off those budgets to save where we can.
Right.
Was that the thinking, Mark?
That's the thinking.
I like the $1.
I have a note next to it that it, was it reduced 1,500, the materials, or was it 3,000?
It was 3,000, I think. Yeah.
That's what I have next, that's what I have written down. I don't know why, but.
So you have that written down as a
Oh,
handwritten?
Oh, you know,
Yeah.
you know what? I think it's because it is 1,500. I think there was some discussion about that because I think I had asked the director about that, and he was saying that the increase, the 3% increase was because of just a higher cost of materials in his budget line. So that's where maybe some of that came from. But yeah, he didn't get into the specifics on how he made that reduction himself or agreed to that reduction himself.
So it is 1,500. And
Yes.
we think during the budget
Okay.
presentation, he may have said, if you need to take a little more, go to 3. Was that your note?
That's what I'm thinking.
I actually had I just, of my own doing, when I was looking at that line item, thought maybe we should just make it $3,000, considering that, you know, some of those things that have to be done won't be done, maybe the line painting and this and that. So I thought we could squeeze a little more out of that, but, you know.
So 3,000 was your figure, not his.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where that.
Okay.
Yeah, I
I mean,
had 3,000
Trying to be
next to it too.
clear.
So are we good on the maintenance, 2,501?
Yes.
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 Okay, so now let's just talk about materials. What are you suggesting, Ann Santoro or Ann Chichello?
Yeah. The other Ann can go first. I've got to pull up that 421. 1 second.
Yeah, I guess I have 3,000 next to it. I don't know why, but I'm thinking that we could probably, like, I think I agree with Ann Santoro that we might be able to get it down, you know, to another 1,500 down to 3,000 on the materials. Yeah, I don't see my notes on it, but I'm thinking that's something we could do.
Yeah, I think so too, Ann. I think that maybe there, you know, this is a bit of a guessing game, but I was thinking there might be some materials physically left over that haven't been purchased, maybe from the spring. I'm not sure. But when you look at the narrative, it covers it covers a number of things, you know, related to the infields, which haven't been used. So I was just thinking it may not be used. So I was thinking we could squeeze a little bit out of there. And with the line painting not happening, which has to happen repeatedly usually, I thought we could squeeze a little more, but it's up to the board.
I'll go either way.
How much more? How much more do you think?
From $1,500 to $3,000. $1,500 was the suggestion.
Double? Okay.
And it's 3,000, and that budget that materials budget was suggested to be 51,290. So it's a decent size.
Yeah. I could go along with that if everybody else does.
Yeah.
That sounds fair.
So I'm hearing reduce the materials budget account 421-300-335 by $3,000. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, which would bring that number down to $48,090. Okay. All right, let's go with the 3,000. It sounds like everybody's on board with that. So were there any other areas of concern, recommended reductions in this budget? Any additional questions?
I was looking at the, it looks like count 412, the seasonal labor, the part-time seasonal labor. And I'm wondering if we're going to be utilizing all of that given the circumstances with the coronavirus.
Oh my God, yes. Crowd control.
The seasonal labor ends up, I believe that's just the maintenance of the fields, the parks, and yes, we're going to be cleaning trash cans and lids and emptying trash a little bit more and all that. It is the seasonal. Keep in mind that just 2 seasons ago, we took the whole staff down by 1 person. We eliminated a position in the Parks and Rec. We rely more on the seasonal now than our full-timers now than before. So I think we have 3 full-timers that are maintenance people. We used to have 4, and we added part-time help. The grass still needs to be cut, and people are using our parks. Actually,
Yeah.
I think Saturday is going to be a beautiful day. Go out and take a look. There's a lot of people out there.
Well, what I was thinking is the crowd. When I've been at the boardwalk on the weekends, you have people stationed for crowd control. And those I assume are seasonal.
Those are seasonal as well. I don't think that comes out of the beach funds. I think that comes out of days funds because it's boardwalk related.
Okay.
Yeah, all that. And the cleaning of the garbage and all that. We're very, especially, in the bathrooms and all that. My goodness.
Now, are the bathrooms going to be open?
We're hoping
the
to.
Weekends?
We're hoping.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to figure out a protocol that's safe for the cleaners. And then in between a clean session and a clean session, is it safe for the patrons? So we're trying to balance that. We're looking for direction from the state on what they're doing with their state parks. If they open the bathrooms at Rocky Neck, we're going to we'll follow their protocol.
Okay.
Yeah, what they do. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Recommended reductions? Okay, seeing none, then it looks to me as if the total of reductions for Parks and Rec as recommended by the Board of Selectmen comes to $11,049. Is that what you have, Anna Johnson?
I have 8,349.
So eliminating the spraying for the mosquitoes.
You know what? I'm sorry. Instead of 3,000, I left a 0 off.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's 5548, 2501,
We're
and
good.
3,000
Yeah.
for a grand total of 11,049.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now moving right along, let's get to departments 522 and 523. This is debt service. Debt service really includes basically interest and principal on debt obligations. Anna was kind enough to follow up on our question from the other night about how much money could we save in the new account of Department 522 and the new account 20 new GOB. GOB standing for General Obligation Bond. So with the $297,000 that was represented there, that was when it was originally budgeted months ago, was calculated at a then rate of 4.25%, I believe. Anna went back and talked to people and came up with a very reasonable reduction to that account of $100,000. Is that correct, Anna? Did I state that correctly?
Yes.
Is there anything you would like to add to that?
We recalculated the rates for what we plan to finance based on what the current rates are. So I feel, I looked at it and I feel comfortable making this recommendation.
So is everybody else comfortable with that recommendation?
Yes.
Reduction of $100,000 in debt service. Okay, great. That's really all we can do. The other debt that is on the books are obligations that we have. We cannot not pay them, otherwise we would be in default of that obligation, and that's not a place where we want to be. So next on the list is Department 724, which is capital. We know off the bat that the Board of Selectmen has a recommended reduction to the Niantic and Flanders Fire Department's sets of turnout gear. They agreed to reduce that this year from 4 sets of turnout gear to 2, with this stipulation, so to speak, that we would need to buy 6 next year. So I'm a little concerned about this reduction because we don't know what's going to happen in 2021. We can't make any promises that they'll get 6 sets that year. I'm not willing to make a promise that they would get 6 because I can't predict what the next fiscal year is going to hold. So the question becomes, do we accept those recommended reductions down to 2 sets of turnout gear and take our chances next year that maybe we can resupply them? Or do we just let them have it this year? I guess that would be the question for this Board of Finance to discuss. Ann, I think you're muted.
Oh, sorry. So what if we reduced it to 3? That way then we kind of cut our losses.
I see 2 chiefs are online here. Why don't we ask them?
Yeah, okay. Good idea, John. Chief Ricks and Chief Dwyer, would you like to weigh in on this discussion?
This is Chief Dwyer. That's pretty. I can deal with doing that. Although the unknown is for replacement of gear is 10-year lifespan, and I don't know what happens tomorrow, just like Camille just said. So if there's petroleum products like the guy's oil fire, there may be 12 sets of gear that we may need, or there could be 3. If a member retires, one of our full-time staff retire, we need to purchase new gear for the next incoming firefighter. If somebody gets a rip, a tear, damaged or just out of date, that's how gear is replaced. And 4 sets of gear per year has been a pretty comfortable number for us. In the budget times that we're in, I'm comfortable with your recommendation of going down to 3. I don't know what Chief Ricks has to say, but that's my take on it.
If you guys want to do 3, that's fine. With the 2, like I said, Board of Selectmen asked us to drop to 2, and we said, well, we're probably going to ask for that 2 back in the coming year. Now, if we're still in financial problems at that point, obviously we could revisit it again. I'm comfortable with 2. Whatever you guys want to do.
You comfortable with 2 or comfortable with 3?
Yeah,
I think we could go for 2.
okay.
I could roll the dice with 2.
You just keep,
Understanding that there's no promises for next year.
I understand that. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. However,
Okay.
we'll still ask for it, and then depending on what the town, depending on what the town's needs and financial status is, then obviously that's another conversation.
And of
Right.
course, our understanding must be that if there's a really big disaster and we need to buy 10 for that disaster, we have to do that.
Yes.
But these are just kind of like an annual allocation or annual purchase of these sets, kind of like, putting money away to, fund, vehicle acquisition or, something like that. It's like, so that we don't get hit all in one year. That's kind of how I look at that.
Yeah, exactly. Like Chief Dwyer had said, lifespan per NFPA on gear is 10 years. So we're trying to cycle as many sets as we can every year as they come due for their expiration date. We're not stockpiling gear. This is just replacing stuff that's expired.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And trying to keep on top of it before they do expire.
Yes.
Correct.
We appreciate your understanding.
Yes, very much. Okay, so with that, the chiefs, what I've heard is that they can go with 2, and we'll see how that pans out. So I'd be up for accepting the Board of Selectmen's recommended reduction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Change your mind.
Okay, thank you, chiefs. So that would mean $12,896 savings from the Capital Department 724. Oops, John Dwyer is talking. I don't think he's talking to us. All right.
Camille?
Yes.
So you didn't talk about the $75,000 for reval.
That is true. So the 100, and this is the CNRE municipal account 100, which has $198,500 in it. The discussion when the budget was presented was that Diane Vitigliano, oh gosh, I'm sorry if I butchered that, Diane, the tax assessor, came up with a new estimate of where we could save $75,000 off the mandatory reval as that comes up. And she felt comfortable with being able to save that amount. So if she says that she's comfortable with that, so am I.
Okay.
Anybody else?
No, she had a compelling case. She was,
Yeah.
I liked her presentation.
Okay, so that would be a reduction of $75,000 in Department 724-100. Did anybody else have any other suggestions for that department? I did have one question, and I don't know if Mark Nickerson is still with us. Can
Yep.
anybody? Are you here, Mark?
Yep.
So I seem to recall, and well, let me just ask you. Let me just see if Joe Burgaw is on the call.
He is.
Okay, great.
Or was. Yeah, he is.
Okay, maybe this is a question for Joe since he's online. Joe, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So I seem to recall in the Public Works Department - trucks, there's $402,563 in that line item. And part of that includes a dump truck for $90,000. So I seem to recall that we just recently bought a dump truck, and I think it was for $150,000 just in the fiscal year that ended 2019. Is that correct?
We didn't get a dump truck. The last dump truck we got, I want to say, was a year or two ago. We didn't get one this past year. We got pickups.
So in the fiscal year that ended 6/30/2019, there was an allocation,
that was a larger, I believe that was a larger truck. This is like a mid-sized truck. We have larger trucks and then mid-sized trucks, and this was a smaller truck. So that's why it was a smaller amount. The bigger trucks are about 145, 150, like you're talking about.
right. Okay, so a different truck, a
Yep.
different need.
Oh, Camille,
So how many dump,
oh,
I'm sorry, Anna,
sorry.
go ahead.
What fiscal year of purchases were you talking about? 1819 or 1920?
1819. There was a $150,000 dump truck.
So in 1819 for Public Works, I have an automated trash truck,
Yeah, the garbage truck.
and then the Kubota with the cab. That was it for 1819 for Public Works.
I think the last truck we got was 1718. But I'm at home and I have printed out spreadsheets, but I don't have my other spreadsheets.
What year did you say it was, Joe?
I want to say it was 1718 was the last time we got a dump truck.
So while Anna's looking that up, is there anything in this budget that could possibly be postponed, Joe, for one more year, or is this an absolute need?
Well, there's two things on there. There's the sweeper and the truck. The sweeper is an absolute need. That thing is on its last leg, and it's used all the time. The dump truck, in the rotation of it's getting older, but if it had, I mean, it's 11 years old. It's starting to, I mean, because the problem with these trucks also is they got salt in them all winter, so salt does kind of a number on them. But obviously, in the times we're in, if the town had to do it from a priority standpoint, sweeper absolutely, dump truck would be best to turn to replace at this time. But if budgetary standpoint, that's up to the Board of Finance, the dump truck.
So Anna, the estimated acquisition payments of $78,217 in the budget book?
Yes.
So that would include both the sweeper and the dump truck. That's the financing for 1 year of those two vehicles.
Right. So the sweeper is $58,796, and I have $19,242 for the dump.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
I had $58,796 for the sweeper, and then I had $19,242 for the dump.
For the dump truck. Okay. So what I would like the Board of Finance members to consider is that, remember when we first started the budget process, we had some high-level objectives to maximize services while minimizing costs. So whatever we can't make up for in budget reductions will most likely be made up from pulling revenues back in from the undesignated fund balance. Now, keep in mind that we're set to return about $1.5 million to the fund balance this year. And so maybe we only have to pull $750,000 back right now to get to like a 0% budget increase. give or take. So the more that we can trim from the budget, the less we have to pull from the undesignated fund balance. So that's something for you guys to think about as we hear what Joe just said. If it's an absolute necessity, he could give it up for 1 year. Or do you want to let this ride? The impact, the reduction to the budget, as Anna just mentioned, would be $19,242.
So Camille,
I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Anna. Would you like to continue?
I just wanted to mention that in 17-18, we purchased a flail mower for Public Works. We purchased a dump truck.
In 17-18, we purchased that dump truck for $150. Okay, but again, that was for a different purpose. That was a larger one. This is kind of like a mid-size. We're hearing it's 11 years old. You know, could he squeeze another year out of it? Maybe.
So yeah, I do, just a consideration is, and I agree with you that you have to, you have to have a bird's eye view with these issues. And part of that would be, looking forward into that capital plan that, whatever you don't do today in this, and by that, I mean this year coming up, 2021, if we start pushing stuff out, then it becomes a problem thereafter where, the burden on the taxpayer is even greater. So there's this balance that we've always got to establish and try to follow so that we don't have 1 year that's, exploding with capital outlays and expenditures. It's a tough one. To me, that payment of $19,242, because it is a smaller truck, to me, it seems more doable. I'm inclined to go forth with it so that we don't have these crunches going on, in the subsequent years of the capital improvement plan. Particularly in those years where we, where more needs to happen. So that's just a thought.
Okay, anybody else have any?
Yeah, I'm kind of taking the other approach, Anna, which is that if we can push out the truck, we can always, if the truck rusts off its frame and he comes back in 6 months and says the truck doesn't start and we need a new truck, we can always borrow and get him a new truck. But we are also there's a lot of unknowns right now, and I think if Joe is saying he can live with it for a year,
yeah,
I think we should take it. And then and remember this, of course, when he comes and asks for it after it's rusting off its frame, But I think our goal, as I said at the beginning of this, is to get as close to zero as possible, zero tax increase. And that's what I'm trying to keep in mind, because this is a particularly difficult year with people not working. And I'm interested in keeping the tax rate close to zero, tax increase close to zero. Just a different point of view. I mean, I understand we're only talking about $20,000 too, so.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that particular acquisition?
Joe, what's your usual lifespan on this type of vehicle? Or are we beyond the realistic lifespan of it?
Well, and I was trying to raise my hand to Camille. This truck is 11 years old. That's about the lifespan, and it all depends on salt usage and kind of how the body's fared through the winter. But kind of going along with what Peter say, that this truck, the dump truck, we could probably get through knowing everything that's going on through the year. However, and that's why I was trying to raise my hand. My staff and my fleet manager said there is a pickup that's actually a lot worse now because of what they're looking at through this winter and just in general, that would be less expensive, that they'd rather switch out and get by another year for the truck. If that's, then it would cost less to replace out the pickup than it was the truck, and we'd have to do the truck in the following year. It's just a suggestion, because then it would then it could drop it down to 60,000 as opposed to 90, and it would be a less of a payment. And if that pickup wasn't approved, then that wouldn't go. But that Peter mentioned it, as far as when you're talking rotting on frames, I have a pickup that's worse than this dump, so I'd rather go another year on the dump if the board so chose, and drop the amount from 90 to 60 and get that pickup done, because that's going to start becoming an issue. And we put together these capital plans starting in November, December, met in January, February, then coronavirus came in. We haven't really had too many meetings. So in meeting my staff recently, knowing that we're going to have these deliberations, that was what my mechanics had told me, is that they could probably get by. And as I said before, it'd be nice to replace it, but nice is nice. Do I have to replace the dump truck right now? We could get by another year, but if we could drop the 90 to 60 and replace that pickup is, as and it kind of dawned on me when Peter said it, almost rusting off the frame. That would be the need as opposed to the want.
Thanks,
So
Joe.
Anna Johnson, I am wondering, hate to put you on the spot, would you be able to calculate what the financing charges for 1 year would be on a $60,000 vehicle instead of a $90,000?
It would be $12,848. So we could make a $6,414 reduction in that
Oh,
line item.
you are on top of this. You're on top of your game. Thank you. So that is consideration. That could be a nice compromise.
Yeah, I like that one.
So Joe, do you still have your hand up?
No, I took it down. I'll take
Okay.
it down.
All right. So what I'm hearing is, when the budget was first developed several months ago, the rotation for replacements was the dump truck. But in the several months that have gone by since this budget was developed, there's a more immediate need for a pickup truck. So I'm thinking that the plan was to do one this year and one next year. So does it make sense to swap the two out and take the less expensive one on this year? I think
That's exactly what I'm saying, and that way it offers up the budget some savings. It gets to the point of replacing a truck that really shouldn't be on the road, and you know, in the meantime, we save a little dollars off this year's budget.
So instead of the $19,242 savings, we would be saving, as Anna pointed out, $6,394. That was the number you got, Anna Johnson? 6,394?
6,414.
6,414. 6,414 savings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
How does the board feel about that? I'd be happy with that compromise.
I like it. I think it makes sense.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much, Joe, for the input. So let's say savings of 6,414. And the 75,000 was for the tax tax assessors. So far, Anna, do you have $94,310 for a capital savings?
$94,310.
Okay, great. Did anybody else have any questions, concerns, recommended reductions for Department 724 capital?
I did, Camille. So as I recall, Anna may have mentioned this, on the town computers, we have $15,000 projected there to spend. And I think, Anna, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said we could possibly reduce that to 10. Is that correct?
So the extra 5,000 was put in thinking that we would need more equipment as we were meeting in the CIP, during the CIP process, and in light of the fact that the public safety group had indicated, all the IT problems. So that's why we added the extra 5,000. So, with that said, we are, typically satisfied with the $10,000 budget.
So that would be an additional savings in the capital budget of $5,000 for a total of $99,310. If Anna's comfortable with that reduction, is everybody else comfortable with that reduction?
Yes.
All right. Was there anything else, Ann Santoro?
I don't see other items. Just a question for Anna on, when we go with like the capital plan, otherwise, if we have some other issues there. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good for now. Thanks. That's good. Yeah.
Okay. So Anna, again, the number that you have, the total reduction for Department 724 is 99,310.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good. So I think that completes the general government departmental budget. So let's, Anna and I, compare some numbers to see if they match. Do you have a total reduction, Anna, figure?
613,406.
613, 406.
Yes.
Not exactly what I have, so I just need to go back, make sure I'm pulling the right numbers. Okay, actually, that's exactly the amount I have, $613,406. That was, so basically, just to recap what we did, as we went through each of these departments, I tried to get some consensus about whether, if we were to pass a motion on that number, if it would pass or not. And so anything that I didn't feel like we had a consensus on, I removed from consideration. Anytime I saw a number of hands going up saying, yeah, I can support that reduction, I kept it in. So that plus the Board of Selectmen recommended reductions to the budgets, and including our increases money that we put back into the budget. Let me just double check. Department 139, I know Ann Santoro had wanted to put that money back. I want to make sure that's in the figure. It is not. So that's good because that was a recommended reduction of 5,500 and we're not accepting it. So yeah, that's included in the 613,000 then. So Anna, if we could have you work some magic. Let's start at goal. If we wanted to, for example, pass a 0% increase onto the taxpayers, and we're taking $613,406 out of the general government side of the budget.
Camille?
Yeah,
So the breakdown of that 613,406 is $414,096 from general government, 100,000 from debt, and $99,310 from capital. So that's the break, the three categories.
three components that we would have to make a motion on. Right. What was the number for capital again, please?
99,310.
Okay, yeah. So if we wanted to get to a 0% increase on like a 0% increase on the mill rate this year, how much would we have to pull from the general fund?
Right. You know what? Maybe you take a 10-minute break and I'll take a look at it.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's
Everybody
great.
sit there staring at me.
Yeah, no, that's a good
We
idea.
can do that
Anna,
very
thanks.
well if you want.
All right, the time is 8:08. Do you want to come back at say 8:25 or 8:20? How much? 8:25? Okay, let's come.
8:20 should be okay.
Okay, let's plan on coming back between 8:20 and 8:25. All right, so we'll take a slight break. All right, thank you all. Okay, welcome back to the East Lyme special meeting of Thursday, May 14th. Finishing up with our budget deliberations. Anna Santoro, our finance director, is explaining the amount of funds from the undesignated fund balance that would be returned to the revenues in order for us to reach a 0% increase in the mill rate. That's what we are discussing now.
Anna Johnson.
Yes. Thank you. What did I say, Peter?
Anna Santoro.
Sorry. Ann Santori just got promoted. All right, Anna Johnson, thank you. All right. So with the reductions that we came up with this evening, we would need to pull $1,030,657 from the general fund and put it back into as a revenue item. Now, if we were to do
for a no mill increase.
Yes, for a no mill increase. So that would mean that we would still be returning close to $500,000 to the general fund at the end of next fiscal year. So fiscal year ending 6/30/18, I believe we had a $5 million general fund balance. Fiscal year ending 6/30/19, that went up to $6 million. This year, we're projecting a return of almost $1.5 million by the end of fiscal year, June 30th, 2020. So even if we pull $1 million back into as a revenue source, our fund balance will still grow by nearly $500,000. In a nutshell, Anna, would you agree with that statement?
What you said is correct, yes. I mean, you know, based on, you know, all the analyses that I've done, that's what, at this point in time, I'm projecting, unless there's something out there that I don't know about. That's what would, you know, impact that changing.
Right.
But when I've done the analysis, you know, for the last several months, I think the outcome has been rather consistent. One of the, you know, I was always assuming that the Board of Education would expend 100% of their budget. You know, they've provided us with information that they're looking to return approximately $263,000. So you know, feel comfortable that that's how it'll end up at the end of the year.
So to me, I think this is a win-win-win. You know, we met the immediate need of the Board of Education with their technology plan. They've still come up with a lot of reductions from their Board of Ed budget. The town has made great sacrifices to try to get to this point. There would be a 0% increase to the mill rate, and our undesignated fund balance would still increase at the end of June 30th, 2021. So all of many surrounding towns had to pull from their undesignated fund balance, and that balance actually went down. So for example, I think Stonington was $15 million in their undesignated fund balance a couple of years ago, and I think they're down to around 12. So I think we're on the right track. We have to come together as a group and decide, is that how we want to go? Do we want to take a little less out of the undesignated fund balance and keep looking for reductions? Are we satisfied with the reductions we have? And what are we going to do about that 98.4% collection rate? My feeling on that is that we've been very close to collecting 100% of revenues this year. So what does that mean? If folks are having trouble paying their property taxes, will we then drop down to 98.4 or lower? I mean, we just don't know. But if we get into a tough situation, we know that we have a healthy undesignated fund balance still that we could rely upon if something unforeseen happened and we had to fund it. So that's my take. Yes, Rich, how do you feel?
Yes, I was remembering that Anna had mentioned something about if you were to designate a 98% tax collection rate versus the 98.4, that there would be an additional amount of funding that would be required.
Yes, I was going to ask a similar question, Rich, to Anna. What would that calculation look like if we use the 98% rather than the typical 98.4 that we use? I mean, I guess even though we always use that 98.4, we tend to, you know, actually collect sometimes more. So, but for the calculation purposes, we have to come to some decision as to what that number is going to be, the rate of collection, if you will.
Yeah, I just think to err on the side of caution and just hear what the 98% would be.
Agreed.
90% would be $1,266,704.
You broke up when you said that number. If you could repeat it, please.
Thank you.
1,266,704.
So we would still be a net increase to our undesignated fund, just not as much if we.
By 300, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe this is perhaps, Camille, this might be a good time to talk about the fund balance a little bit. And the percentage it's at. So for example, from that document that Anna gave us yesterday, which is the updated fund balance information sheet. And this is a projected fund balance through June of 2020. And that figure, the projection is 7,558,573. And that's assuming that the monies are going in there, which are the 1,296,962, and then the additional monies that which comprise of the various things that Anna has been speaking about. So that percentage, as you can see, is 10.2%. So it's not the 15% that we're trying to get up there. We were lower. We've been working on this, and I think for the new members of the board too, we have been working very hard. I think Camille would say the last few years trying to get this up, and not only try to come to some percentage that the rating agencies like, but that the financial advisor for the town and our auditor have from time to time recommended. So, it's just a little perspective maybe that if you start cutting at that, then your percentage will go down and you may not, be reaching your goals. And it does take time. I think Camille had mentioned to me that before I was on the board, there were some times when, a larger amount was taken and it took some time to get that back up again. So that's one piece of information about the fund balance. And then I just wanted to bring out a couple of points in my mind about the use of fund balance, because I kind of have a certain opinion about it. But I think generally speaking, it's acceptable practice that you use that fund balance for one of two possibilities, either an emergency or a one-time opportunity, for example, a land sale, something like that. And you try not to touch it. I think, looking forward, my own feeling is I haven't come to any particular number yet, but my own feeling is let's be careful, perhaps, of how much of that you really want to dig into, because A, it's hard to get back, but B, you need, and I think I'd mentioned this in my remarks yesterday in other contexts, et cetera, and I've said it probably other times, you want to plan for the future. So that fund balance is not just about COVID and all the economic downturn of COVID and COVID part 2 and COVID part 3. It's about having, some kind of a safety net for the town, should there be some other episode, hurricanes, other natural disasters, fires that require unlimited resources, more than the turnout gear. So, and, other financial ruin that can happen, so basically, and to shore up here too, if we start not seeing tax revenue for whatever reason, you might have to dip into it as well. So for me, I just want to be really careful about, something we've been building up to not even the optimum point quite yet. It's good, it's solid, but it's not maybe where you want it to be. Then you take some away, and the taken away is, if it's considerable. And, then I worry too, I really do worry about grants from the state of Connecticut. If you don't see that Pequot grant that Camille was referring to, because that grant is based upon tribal money, the casinos paying their 25% and then dispersing that to the town, to the various towns. If you don't see parts of your municipal stabilization grant, these are hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if there's a hole anywhere, you got to be careful. So I think for me, the sort of economic chaos that we're kind of in, I just feel like let's just be careful in that regard. But I didn't mean to go on about it, but I just wanted to give you my sense of how I'm viewing it.
What would you recommend? What would you recommend, Anne?
Okay, so I started to play with some numbers because, you know, honestly, it's kind of hard not to. We have 175,000, I believe, that we are planning to use. That's already in those numbers. So the question is, where do you go from that 175 to get where you'd like to be? You know, I haven't, you know, I don't want to go too high. I think even beyond like, you know, 400,000, 500,000, you start getting into, I think, an area where it's very hard to put it back. It's very hard. And I think I'd rather us as a town have a cushion. And I know the goal is a laudable one. You know, you don't want to increase the mill rate, but I think a small increase, you know, is acceptable. And when you can kind of like not raid the refrigerator, so to speak, you know, it might be a thought.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anna, if you're using the 98.4%, that number, what's the mill rate look like?
You're muted, Anna.
So using 98.4% with no fund balance, the mill rate would be 28.66, so a 0.47 mill increase. And can I just make a point of clarification, Ann, when you were making your comments, when the fund balance analysis from the other night, the 175, that wasn't use of fund balance. That's saying that in this fiscal year, we had planned to use 175 and
Yes.
expecting we're not going to need it because of the way all the other revenues are coming in.
Right.
It's added
Right.
back in. So just
right. I wanted to use that as a kind of point of reference, you know, because we usually stick something in there as a kind of measuring stick. You're correct. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Great.
So I just have a quick question. Oh,
Yes, Ann Chichello.
so
Yeah, Ann Chichello, did you have?
just a question. Yeah. So you said that with 98.4%, the mill rate is 28.6, which is a 0.47 increase. Is that without taking anything out of the general fund?
yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
John,
John,
I think John
Yeah.
Birmingham, did you have a question?
Well, Rich had his hand up before I did.
Okay.
That's okay, John. You go ahead first. You've been
I
waiting.
was just going to point out that 0.47 mil increase this year is about half of what it was last year. Last year was 0.84. So I don't know. I agree sort of with Ian about being conservative of how much we take out of the undesignated fund balance, because we don't know what next year's going to be. It could be worse than this year because of all the stores that are still closed, and we don't know how many are going to be able to open up. And we don't know about our revenue for next year. That could be a lot less than we have this year. It's just an unknown. Hey, Rich?
Okay, thanks, John. Appreciate that. In terms of the desire to get to the 15% for the undesignated fund balance, and from what our auditor had presented to us earlier this year, he mentioned that our 10.2 is very good for a town our size and a budget our size. I think that from what I remember from his presentation, the percentages that you want, it's not something that's locked in stone, but it varies by the size of the town and the size of the town budget.
Yes.
And
I agree, Rich.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think our 10.2 is very, very good, and it sounded like we're in good shape. I just wanted to get clarification again. It sounded, if we were to take the amount of money from the undesignated fund and assuming a 98% worst case scenario of payment, we would still be able to put in about 300,000 into the undesignated fund. Did I understand that correctly? So we would be increasing from an already healthy standpoint.
So
And
Yes,
I
just,
think that,
oh, go ahead.
I think the tax, you go, Camille.
I'm sorry, I just wanted, I want you to continue speaking, but I just wanted to make a couple of clarification points. So the 10.2 would be a projection if we returned 1,296,000 to the general fund. We're proposing that we not do that. So Anna, if you have that spreadsheet handy, I wonder if you could calculate for us what our estimated percentage would be if we return $300,000 at the end of this fiscal year to the undesignated fund balance.
Mhm. Mhm. While Anna is figuring that out, I have a question about that calculation because I believe that percentage of your funded, that percentage of the fund balance, that's a percentage of your prospective budget, the 2021 budget.
That is correct.
Yeah, and right. So, and I don't know when this calculation is done, Camille, is this done using the 1920?
I'm not sure. That's a question for Anna. See what's in
Yes.
her spreadsheet.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Oh, and while she's figuring that out, Chief Ricks has asked us, and perhaps you could respond, a question mark about the fire engine discussion, but I think that's under capital improvement plan,
Yes,
which is yet to come on the agenda.
yes. Correct. Thank you, Ann.
Sure.
Just one comment on that unassigned fund balance. The better that is, the better rating we get as far as interest wise when you go out for bonds.
That is exactly correct, John. However, we are in an interest rate environment where the rates are falling precipitously.
I know.
So no matter what we do, we're going to get a pretty good rate. And I think Anna had already checked that with the advisors, and they feel pretty confident we can get a much better rate than what we originally projected for this. That's how we came up with that $100,000 in savings. I'd also say that I think what the auditors had made a point of was that it's also good, credit rating agencies also look for trends. They want to see that you are building your fund. So we know that we don't have to, it's not, we don't have to get there all at once. We do know how difficult it is to get there. But we are making the progress, and I think that gets looked at very favorably, especially when surrounding towns are dipping into, their designated fund balances are going down to try to make their budgets whole and pass on a 0% increase. So I would say that anybody looking at our financials would say we would be doing fantastically. And the last point that I would want to make is, this is sort of an emergency. This is an international pandemic. It's not, if it's not raining today, I'm really not sure, when it's going to rain. This is pretty serious. I think it's a big psychological boon for people to know that we're trying to take care of them. I think that goes a long way in terms of confidence of town government. So that's that. I don't know if
I
somebody
realize,
else wants to speak, or Anna, do you have some numbers for us? Yes, please. Johnson?
So if we increase the unassigned fund balance by the $300,000 based on the proposed budget at $76,191,073, it would be at 8.61%. And it would be 8.84% of our current year budget.
And what are we today? We're at, our undesignated unassigned fund balance is 6,261,000.
Right.
And if we take that as a percentage of our current budget, do you have that rate?
8.44.
8.44.
Yes.
So even with the increase in our expense budget, if we return $300,000 to the undesignated fund balance, we are increasing our percent funded from 8.44 to 8.61.
Yes.
Okay, who else wants to weigh in on these really difficult issues?
To John's point about the credit rating, we heard numbers from tapping into the fund by 400,000, I think is what Ann suggested, up to 1.2 million tapping into the fund. That's quite a range that we're talking about. Would that affect our credit rating if we went to one extreme or the other? Or is it all within the same credit rating, if you will, for lack of a better word? Do you understand my question?
The credit rating, entails many factors.
Yeah.
Of which the financials and the fund balance is a part of it. It's a very difficult situation. It is a difficult year.
Yeah.
However, because the unknown, meaning what's going to transpire in the upcoming year, it makes it even a more challenging decision. I would be concerned to apply the 1,030,000. I believe that's too high.
what rate range are we in now as far as acquiring bonds? When you go out to look at bonds, what rate can we get?
So we would be somewhere under 3%.
So between 2 and 3?
Pardon?
Between 2 and 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would say, on, a little bit on the upper side of 2%.
So what would you recommend at this point instead of the 1.3 million?
No, she said 1,030,000, right?
130,000.
But that's with the 98.4. I'd still like us to work off of the worst case scenario, the 98. Unless you feel very confident about the collection rate.
I don't.
That's anybody
Yeah.
at that point. Look at the collections from this year's grand list and how it was playing out. And I looked at, let's say 1 in 20 taxpayers didn't pay their taxes this coming July. And I looked at what we collect in each category, meaning real estate, motor vehicle, supplemental, and personal property, and what the average tax bill was. And then I figured out it would be about $2.8 million if 1 in 20 taxpayers did not pay their tax bill. That's what my calculation came out to. So, it's difficult to come up with what's the right thing to do.
How would it be if you, say, took the halfway point between, I don't know, is it 400 and the 1.2? So if you went to the middle, how would that work? So
So first of all, we have, the first task is to determine what percent collection rate we would want to use. So if we wanted to use 98%, that would, and take half of it, that's about 640,000. And then on the other hand, the 98.4 would be a little over $500,000.
So let's suppose,
A mill rate increase.
oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. What was the mill rate
Yeah.
increase?
I said, let's say we, okay, we're gonna look at, we not using the total number. So in other words, with, hold on 1 second, just bear with me.
I guess the other question is 98%. Is that a reasonable collection rate? Is that what we're thinking?
I wonder what the actual collection rate was back in 2008 when we went through that recession.
Who's got that
Anybody
number?
have that number?
You got that number off the top of your head?
Who was on the board?
Not me.
Somebody listening?
Anna will go dig it out right now.
All right, let's talk a little bit more while Anna's searching.
Well, one thing maybe is I've been thinking about this for the last 2 months, that I'm just not comfortable using the same collection rate. I just think of 98.4. I think there you need to pull back a little bit. I don't know what that little bit is, but I think you need to pull back because, and like I was saying yesterday, with the unemployment numbers going up, and we have some data now per town, which we didn't have a month ago. I mean, it was only in the last month or so that, some of those numbers were being released and starting by the Labor Department. So I think that's, so I'm not comfortable with 98.4, but I'm open to some other thoughts here, of if you pull back, how much you pull back.
So what we're hearing is even a little bit of a decrease to 98% is going to cost us about $2.25 million, $225,000.
You said two different numbers there, Ann.
Yeah.
I said $225,000, $225,000.
$250,000. Okay, I thought you said 2 million. Okay.
Quarter. A little less than $250,000. I round a lot. 225,000, 230,000, somewhere, I estimate too. So even a little reduction in that rate translates to big dollars, as Anna was pointing out before. I guess I'm kind of in the camp too, where even though we've been exceeding the 98.4% collection rate, that's when the economy was booming. So does that mean that we just now go down to 98.4, or should we prepare for a little bit worse? I guess I'm more comfortable with preparing for a little bit worse. So maybe a flat 98% collection rate I could go with.
And is that reasonable? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, is that the
I mean, honestly, I think it's a crapshoot. I think it's a crapshoot. I mean, I don't know.
Going from 98.4 to 98 is $250,000. Is that a ballpark?
Yeah, ballpark.
Okay. And
See, the problem is, here's the problem.
you have
Property tax rate or property taxes never go away. I mean, if somebody can't pay them, they, they might go into default, but they're always going to be due, even if,
Yeah.
right?
But there's money, it costs money to do that too.
Mm.
So if
So what, I guess, yeah,
let me just
go
try
ahead.
to do some back of the napkin math here. So if zero is our goal, which I understand is a negotiable, to hit that, we would have to, and we went down to 98%, we would have to take 1.2 million to hit zero, correct?
Right.
Correct.
Okay, so if we took 98 and we hit the million, we'd be back with a small mill increase. And Ian saying a million is too high, so we're even looking at a higher mill increase if we wanted to be conservative on all fronts.
I'm just afraid that next year's going to be worse as far as revenue. We're going to be
Yeah.
back to the
Right.
same thing next year, looking at a higher mill rate because they don't have the revenue to match the expenses. So,
I think, yeah, John, I think you bring up a good point because we're kind of focused on the 1 year, which is what we need to do. But you're right, looking at those subsequent years, especially the one after this one, that's where I think there could be some issues.
So remember, it took us 10 years to recover from the Great Recession of 2008, right? 10 years to recover. And Connecticut was really dead
Yeah.
last in terms of recovery in our country.
we're still pretty close to being dead. Dead last. Anyway, if we go to 98%,
And high property tax rates are going to drive even more people away, especially, I'm telling you, especially if we don't take care of them during really tough times. I do think, vaccines will be available by the end of the year from everything that I'm hearing.
I'll count on it.
Our economy will start to recover, but again, nobody knows how long it will take to recover completely. But we do know that if, property taxes are due. So if people are getting into trouble, it might be a situation where they have to move, they have to, which, would be awful. It would just be awful. If they lose their job and they can't get another one, at some point those taxes will have to be paid. We've written very little off over the past, you see, this is my 8th budget that I'm going through. We've actually written off, well, no, we never write off taxes. What we do is we move it to, an account. What is that account called? Suspense fund, suspense list. So we never write the taxes off. We just move it to a suspense account to be collected sometime in the future.
So the question is, if we go to the 98%, how much do you want to take out of the unassigned fund balance? I mean, do you really want to get to zero, or do you want to get to a low mill rate that is fairly acceptable?
All right, so let's say that our mill rate goes up 0.2. What does that translate to in terms of a tax increase for folks?
Using 98%?
Yeah.
Yeah, using 98%.
So we would have to use $829,910.
And a 0.2 mill rate increase would translate, I think, to a point, well, that's a 0.7% increase over last year.
Last year was what, 2.36? Increase.
Last year's mill rate
No,
was 28.19.
the percentage increase I'm talking about.
Yes.
Oh, 3.1.
Sorry,
I thought
3.07, I think, increase.
Yeah, rounded it.
the mill rate was 0.84 up to what, 28.9. 28.
Yes, that's correct. The mill rate went up in a really astounding economic boom. The mill rate only went up 0.84, and people were screaming then.
I know. Well, what are we going to do? You want to go to 0.3,
Um,
0.4? You know,
I've stated my case. I'm comfortable. I'm because we are returning so much money to the undesignated fund balance. I'm comfortable pulling $1 million out. And whatever, if we decide to go with the 98% collection rate, whatever it is, the mill rate increase, I'm good with that. But I'm comfortable pulling $1 million. Think about it. I mean, this is money that was not used in this year's budget that is being returned. It's kind of
What,
a windfall.
If I might.
Yes, Anna.
Okay, so what we're proposing to return is a combination of revenues that came in greater than we originally estimated and expenditures that are going to come in lower than we originally estimated.
Right.
Anna,
Now
what was
that's
your
probably not going to happen this year. We're probably not going to return any money to the fund balance next year. It would be very difficult to do. We're probably going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this abnormal, like irregular, to have money come back into the fund balance, like over the past few years? Have you, do you see, 500,000 or $1 million go into the fund balance, or does it usually stay pretty stable?
So,
Go ahead, Anna.
yeah, so, our operating results this fiscal year and for 6/30/19 were substantially better than they had been in some prior years. We're doing a better job at being conservative with our revenue projections. That helps. And, there were some years that we struggled a bit because as our budgets got tighter, we spent a higher percent of the budget, meaning we had less remaining at the end of the year to boost up what our operating results were for any given year. Like 6/30/19 was, was really a very good year for us, as this year will to be. However, next year, if our budget is tighter and we have some issues with any of our revenue projections, it may be more difficult to get to that break-even point.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And thereby harder to put money, money left over in the general fund than into an unassigned fund balance, or to have it not assigned.
Right, harder to
Part
grow.
of this.
Well, here's one way that we can add to the fund balance when those, for example, gateway apartments come online and we're starting to get the tax revenues from those gateway apartments. Let's not spend as much as we take in. There's your delta right there. I mean, I think in the past several years, we've constantly been, spending more than the actual increase in the grand list has afforded us.
Yeah,
So
wages keep going up and insurance rates keep going up, and that's That's
Yeah.
not going to stop. Anna, what was your hesitation? You said that you thought $1 million was too much to pull from it. What's your thinking when you
Well, I
make that
mean,
statement?
my concern, so my concern is that if we take too much now, and let's say, for example, our operating results for 6/30/2021 are very close to break even,
Yeah.
then in a subsequent year, there wouldn't be as much for the town to apply. So it might make it more difficult to get to a position where you can get to a 0 or a very low mill rate increase.
Okay. Just being conservative. Okay.
All right, so we're going to have to move forward
So-
somehow. Let's work on the 3 pieces: the collection rate, the use of funds. And I think, are we pretty well set on the amount of reductions? And because that's the other thing, we could go back and look for more reductions. I mean, or we can work backwards and we could say, what's the most, what is the largest increase we're willing to pass on to the taxpayers this year? I'd be really happy with 0 somehow. I think that's where I stand. I think let's go around the table and just see what everybody thinks is reasonable. And we'll start in the upper left corner. Pete DeRosa, what do you
Of
think?
course, I don't know. I want to target 0, but I don't want to. I'm going to be vague on this. So my target would be 0, but
Okay.
I don't want to.
And
I don't want to put things at risk either. I don't want to put our credit rating at risk.
that's why this job is so tough.
Right.
You
So,
know, you can't
but
meet all the objectives that you're
Right,
wanting.
right. But my goal would be 0, but I would be willing to discuss a 1 or 2% increase. So 1 or 2.1 or 2.
I was gonna say
My
1
goal
or
would be
2.
0. No.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Peter. What about you, Ann? Chikello.
I guess the way I'm looking at it is we weren't really supposed to have this money, the million. It seems like other years, we didn't have it. So I would be comfortable probably not using the whole million, but a substantial portion of it, a half to 3/4 of it, maybe, so that maybe we just raise it if we have to, just a little bit. And we still can maintain the unassigned fund balance so that, if next year is worse, we'd still have money then to, try to keep the mill rate even next year at a low increase, versus if we bring it down to 0 this year, then maybe next year when it's worse, we might have to actually increase it, too much.
So just a point of clarification, what we're actually projected to return to the undesignated fund balance this year is $1,560,000, give or take.
Okay.
$1,560,000 is what we're projected to return. Right, Anna? 1,296,000 from the town, 263,000 from the Board of Ed.
Yeah, the $1.2 million is what the projected operating results is. So again, that's revenues that came in greater than we projected, surplus revenues, and then also our expenditures coming in less than we originally projected. So it's a combination budget.
Right.
It's our operating result.
Which could change a little bit because we still have a couple of months to go before the end of the fiscal year. But with everything shut down, I'm not thinking that we're going to be all of a sudden, spending a lot more than what we're projecting here.
right?
I could be wrong, but that's the number as of today. Again, it might change a little bit 2 months from now when we close out the books, but right now it's 1,560,000. Okay, so I hear I'm at 0. Peter's preference is 0, but willing to go to 0.1 or 0.2. And Chicolo, did you give me an actual number, like for a mill rate increase?
You noticed, huh?
I did.
Politician.
No, not yet. Let me hear everybody else. I still have to, I'm still
All right,
thinking.
let's go to the veterans. Let's go to Ann Santoro and John Birmingham.
Okay, so yeah, I haven't made up my mind about how much mill increase per se, but I'm kind of again would like to hold down our use of the fund balance for the reasons we've discussed and that Anna outlined. I think we're all kind of saying the same thing about it in terms of a security blanket for the town. It's just a matter of different perspectives of explaining that. I'm comfortable. Also, I've looked back at our famous slideshows, Camille, where we do, and Camille will be doing this, I believe, on Monday, but, showing what the net effect is. If your mill rate goes up a certain amount, this is what, if your house is valued at 250,000 or 400,000, whatever it is, what does that look like for you? So, I think that a small amount is okay. I think certainly we should try to do less than last year under the current circumstances. So, I'm not uncomfortable with a 0.4 increase. I think that's still very thoughtful and, has the taxpayer in mind, and at the same time also protects them. I mean, it's one thing to look at taxes and the levying of taxes, as a way of helping and protecting your taxpayer, but you've got to balance that with all the services and doing things, in some kind of, order and some sort of help for the future. And I really think that as much as we're in the box of 2021, we've got to keep this in mind that you're going to need a safety net. And I've never felt more that safety net is more important than ever. And I know, thankfully, and thank God, we've got that, good operating results this year, back to back from yet last year, even better. My first year on the board, not so much. I think, Camille, we can remember that. So, and some of those previous years, so where you were on the board. But so, yeah, I mean, I love 0. Trust me, I'd love 0. Make my day. I'm comfortable with, certainly in that range of 0.4, lower, whatever. So, and keeping that, that use of the fund, as Anna Johnson outlined, less. So.
Okay,
Thanks.
so I hear 0.4. John?
You keep calling me the senior member. Tonight I'm aging by
No, veteran.
I'm aging by the minute.
Terms of years of service to the
Being
town.
older, I'm more conservative. The mill rate is like a moving target. I'm in the realm of 0.4. I know 0 is a great goal, but I don't really think, in light of what's going on, I'm worried about next year, really, that we're going to be in a deeper hole than we are now. So as far as how much we should take out of the unassigned fund balance, I think I agree with Anna. I think $1 million is too much. I probably could go half of that, $400,000, $500,000. But as far as mill rate, like I said, I'm in the area of 0.4, maybe a little less, but not much.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, Rich, how about you?
I think 0. I think we are very much in a rainy situation. We're still going to be adding to our undesignated fund balance. And yes, if it's a dire year next year, it's going to be very painful. But I think that we can see things coming early. And I think that we could take steps in our local government to try to curtail some of these fixed costs that we have not had an opportunity to address this year. And most of the budget is fixed cost. And I think that if we put on that type of strategy and address it early, we may be able to achieve maintaining services with minimal increases in next year's budget. And I don't have the financial background or the experience that you all do, but I just think for our citizens, a 0% increase would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, Ann Chiquello, I'm going to have to circle back to you with a number. So far, I think I have 3 zeros and 2 .4s. You see what I'm trying to do here, right? I'm trying to move us in a direction where we can kind of get to some kind of consensus so we can at some point make a motion. But it's helpful to know if that's going to pass or not by doing this exercise. So I'm sorry, Ann Chiquello, but you'll have to give us a number.
Can't hear you.
You're on mute.
No, am I?
I'm on mute. Ann was.
I think that what I said in the beginning, I think, you know, people are suffering. So, this is hard. I understand we want to keep the unassigned fund balance up, and I think it's up at a good amount. And I think that maybe to help people, we should try to keep it as low as we can, as close to zero as we can get it. You know, I would still say, you know, maybe take half of, you know, whatever it's the 1 million, 1.5 million out of it. And then you still have some in the unassigned fund balance to put in there. So that way then you would be keeping the taxes low and also improving the fund balance. So next year we would have some other money to take out. Let's say if there's nothing next year to put in the unassigned fund balance, we have this other 750,000 that we can just make ends meet, so to speak. So I think that's, I don't know the numbers exactly, but that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, thanks. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that if we were to entertain a motion of like a 0% increase, we might get it. But I want to be fair to Ann and John because they're saying that they would be willing to go to 0.4. So let's try to reach some kind of compromise. Why don't we think about 0.15? If we were to have a 98% collection rate with a 0.15 mill rate increase, Anna Johnson, how much would we have to pull from the undesignated fund balance? Pull back out, I should say, because again, we're adding 1,500,000 into it. How much would we take back out?
With a 98% collection rate, a 0.15 mil increase, that would be $939,108.
So what if we were to say, let's move forward with returning 935,000, just round down. 935,000 to the revenue line item. Let's pull that back. We're still putting close to 700,000 back into the fund balance. 6 something. How does everybody feel about that?
Well, I'm thinking that Ann's suggestion of the 750,000, let's look at it, the other way. So let's say we took out the 750,000, sort of meeting everyone's extreme here in the middle. And what would that mill rate look like, assuming the 98% collection rate?
So if we came straight down in the middle, that would be 800,000.
Well,
A range of
750.
400,000 to 1 million. So the midpoint is 800,000.
Okay, but I
Sorry,
liked
Ann
Ann.
Chicallo, you're muted.
You're muted, Ann.
You're still muted.
Sorry, I keep forgetting. I guess I was taking the half of the 1.5, but you know what I mean? Basically to get the 750. But I mean, 750 or 8, whatever, just, you know what I mean? Somewhere in that ballpark between maybe 700 and 900 to, so it's, you're keeping the tax down, but you're also putting a solid amount back in. So you're right in the middle, that's what I'm thinking. That way, then we basically appease both sides.
I agree. I think that's a good thought there.
So the new number then, Anna Johnson, please, is 98% collection rate, pulling 800,000 back from the fund, which is 50%. We're just pulling 50% back. What would the mill rate increase be then?
About 23, about 23 and a half.
0.235?
Yes.
Okay, for me, that's too high.
Yeah, that's kind of high.
It's too high for me.
Yeah, it's too high. I thought that would have been better on the mill rate.
Well, yeah, under ordinary times.
I want to be under 2. I want to be under 0.2.
Yeah, if it was, I guess if the collection rate was, that's the difference, the collection rate. Okay, all right.
That's the added pressure that we're under, because you could work a lot better with the 98.4, but
I think
No,
you have to be realistic
I
with
guess-
the collection rate.
Now they're saying though, just for clarification, I remember Mark Nickerson saying that there's a 40% collection through like escrow that we automatically get for the town. Yeah. Is that right?
So, so the taxes that were collected for this current year, about between 22 and 23 million was related to escrowed taxes.
Okay. Ann Santora, were you saying that they had some numbers about the unemployment rate, like in East Lyme or in the area? Just
14%.
to kind of.
I think
Is that for
14,
our area
15%.
too? Oh,
You're muted,
You're
Ann.
muted, Ann.
You're muted. You're muted.
Ann Santero, you're muted.
thank you. When you have a dog in the house, you automatically do that, even though my dog is sleeping. Thank you. Anyway, when you, the numbers I had were actual numbers of unemployed, of people who had filed for unemployment through the end of April. And we were inching up to the 1,400 mark then, and that's out of our population. I don't have the statistics on who in the town is working and then making that comparison. But when you looked at the chart, and the chart was provided by the Department of Labor, in about mid-March, when all heck broke loose, right? You just saw that number go like this, and it's crested a little, but it's still high. And I think maybe this week they're going to come out with another revision. I just checked it again some days back, and I didn't see any other data beyond the end of April. So that was very disconcerting to me. And again, I think I mentioned yesterday, self-employed folks only recently can take advantage of unemployment benefits. So, and you know, that's a whole nother can of worms. But anyway, but
Okay.
and
Right.
I think Anna Johnson had just said something that if 1 in 20 don't pay taxes, $2.8 million would be lost. Is that correct, Anna? I think you said that.
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
So if we get to that point, that would be not devastating, but you know, we'd have to deal with that. Here, I'm just going to lay out one final concern is, you know, I would definitely go with maybe a 0.4 mill rate increase if we had a referendum. Let's not forget, we don't have a referendum. The folks out there don't even have a chance to decide on what we decide on this budget. It's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would be willing to do it if there was a referendum, but there's just simply not. So that's why I think, I don't know, I'm going to go back to that 0%. To me, it's a win-win-win. 0% increase to the taxpayers. Still rolling forward with 2 new initiatives, 2 technology plans, one for the town and one for the school, and still building our reserves. I think it's a good solution. And as Rich Steele had stated earlier, now we have a year to prepare. We didn't have a whole heck of a lot of time to react to this situation that we're in. But we know we're in this situation now. We've got 12 months to figure it out as the economy unfolds about what we're going to do. And that might involve some even tougher decisions than we're making here tonight. But I'm pulling back to 0% again. You know, I'm just thinking about that referendum.
So, all right, Camille, let me ask your opinion then. So what do you think about, though, what Anna Johnson said about having to put the money back into the rainy day fund? That's the one thing that's kind of holding me back because, you know, Anna's the director of finance. So I guess that's my one sticking point to not say, okay, let's go with the 0, because I just, you know, I'm not a financial person, you know, I don't do it. So that's just my concern for the future. So, and I don't know if you can address it or Camille or, you know.
What was, I'm not sure I'm clear on the question.
I guess my concern is with the rainy day fund, right? What number are we supposed to have it at? Is there like a certain number we should keep it at, or is there, you know, some reason that we can't use the money we have to bring it to a 0? You know, like I'm just trying to understand why not everybody, but why some people are saying we want to keep more money in there. You know what I mean? And what number is enough, kind of thing.
I think the biggest reason is to show that our municipality is healthy, that we're financially astute, that we're not a huge credit risk. That's the goal with trying to get that undesignated fund balance high, and also to cover, like Ann Santoro said, like an unforeseen emergency. I mean, that's what it's there for. So, you know, so I don't know what you want to define as an emergency. That might be different depending on who you're talking to, but that's what it would be for an emergency. The auditors, I was very careful this year to ask them about other municipalities our size and if we're at a healthy balance. And years ago, that number was you know, 15%, because look, our budget was a lot smaller, right? So when your budget is only $60 million, $15,000, I mean, 15% of a $60 million budget, you know, is not even that much money. But as our budget keeps growing to what, 75 million, $76 million this year, now all of a sudden, you know what? 15% of that budget is actually a lot of money. So whether you have a small budget of 60 million or a higher budget of 75 million, if you have a hurricane, you're going to have the same amount of damage no matter how much you have in your budget. So that's why for a municipality our size, I personally believe that 10% is a really good goal. To have $7.5 million in a rainy day fund is a good, admirable goal. I'm not so stuck on that 15% number anymore. And the auditor backed that up this year by saying 10% is a healthy goal for a municipality our size. Now we're not going to get there by taking this $1 million out or whatever that figure is, but we're still making progress toward that goal. And that's what I believe credit agencies are looking at.
Yeah, I tend to, oh, am I muted? Okay. I do, you know, yeah, 15 is your more optimal percentage. But, you know, clearly that if we were to get to the projected, you know, the 10.2 here, that's a $7.5 million budget of unassigned fund balance. So when Anna was giving the numbers before, if we took money out of that, you're going the other way percentage wise. You know, it's 8.44 now. And if you take that money out, you know, you're going in the wrong direction. You know, even if you're adding a little, you're still not getting to closer to where you need to be. Just in a word to summarize, I think Anna said it well when she felt as though she couldn't get behind a $1 million dip, you know, so to speak, into a fund. So I'd like to defer, you know, to her sense of things, being the finance director as well. So I think you make a good point, Ann Cocello, about that.
Anna Johnson, would you like to share with these folks what you told me earlier today about an increase in the budget?
Well, I understood that your goal is to try and make it, you know, be zero. However, you know, I also pointed out, you know, really was focusing on more like a $750,000 use of fund balance. So I will mention, Mr. DeRosa mentioned that the most he could support would be a 0.19 increase, which is using $851,749, just so you have that information.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, like a, you know, a 0.19 would be somewhere in the neighborhood of a 1% increase overall. So I think that's very respectable, and shows a lot of thoughtfulness here. When you look at where the budgets were and our task and the whole, you know, Board of Education's task and Board of Selectmen's task and shrinking away, I think that's pretty good, you know. It's hard to, you know, check every box perfectly. You know, you want zero, you want to hold on to every dollar you have and deal with the coronavirus, you know, we know that, and use a 98% collection rate instead of 98.4. So it becomes complicated. But I think I think we're getting closer to reality, if you will, the reality of making a difficult decision.
Anna, is the 850 with the 98% collection?
Yes.
Okay.
Things that make you go,
So Anna, you're saying 0.19 mil increase is how much out of the unassigned fund balance? 850? The 750?
851, 749.
And that's below inflation, right?
Mm.
And that was pretty close when I asked about the 0.2. It was 829, 910.
So let's suppose, well, can I throw out some numbers?
Mm.
I mean, if this helps, let's suppose a house valued at $350,000
Mhm.
is paying $9,866 in property tax this year. If we raise the mill rate by 0.15, those property taxes would go up to $9,919.
I didn't get the first, what's the difference? Well,
About a
With-
$55 increase for a house that's valued at about $350,000. We're talking about an annual tax increase of $55. I can live with that.
I can live with that.
That's 1.5, not the 1.9, so it'd be a
Yes.
higher
Yes.
pull from the unfunded
Yeah.
balance.
That's a what? That's a what?
1.5 mil
0.15.
increase. Yeah, which would be higher than the 850.
It would
What
be
would that be?
900. It would be 935,000.
Now you're picking up close to $1 million again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, it's a difference of what, 930 to 850, but I can't do math. 80,000. I guess I could get behind the 0.15.
All right.
I
We
can-
have to move this along.
yeah.
Show of hands, how many people can get behind a 0.15?
I can get behind it.
Okay, guys, we're gonna have the votes to get to a 0.15. So I hope that Ann Santoro and John Birmingham, you can appreciate that.
Can
We
I,
did come up from 0.
Could we, okay, so let's at least have a discussion about the numbers for the 0.19. That was about a 1% increase overall, and maybe 851,749 would be the amount of fund balance we would use. So my question would be, what would that look like for the homeowner that you just referenced? If you could do that same math for the little bit of extra.
Well, it would be 25% higher, right? It would be a 25% from 1.5 to say 2, right? Because 1.9 is almost 2. It's a 25% increase.
Okay, so dollar-wise, that's pretty insignificant as between the two figures. I'm just trying to hold the line on that. You know, Anna Johnson had suggested the number of 750,000, and she is the finance director. And I feel like, you know, pushing that limit, you know, we're getting closer to over a million, et cetera. So if we could stay in that, you know, 100,000 more and stay in that 851,749 range, you know, that's a good thing to me.
1.75?
I think Peter's suggesting splitting the difference.
Yeah, I was
I
about
don't
to
want
say
to go to
that too.
1.9.
No, I said 1.75.
Yep.
Okay, so what? Okay, so
What's 0.17? Yeah.
What's 175?
it's 0.17, right?
0.17.
You know,
That's-
it's not just the dollars. It's the psychological impact that this is going to have.
Yeah.
But I can see,
So
Peter,
it's
I
only
agree
going
with
to be, it's only going to be a few bucks per person.
Yeah.
So I can do the math, but does that matter? I mean,
Well, I like Peter's suggestion of the 0.17, and I feel like as a board, we're doing something a little bit more unanimously. If that, you know, it's a little bit of this and a little of that, and I think we can feel a little that we have coming to more agreement, you know, on. I think that's good, actually.
well, 4 people started at 0 and 2 people started at 4. So if we end up close to 2.2, really, then we're giving more than,
I think. Well, if John and I were at 0.4 and this is a 0.17, then I'm still in the losing column unless I can't do my math, you know.
But we're giving more than we're getting.
Yeah, I think so, John.
okay.
But we won't look at it that way. I'm just happy that we are thinking about this in between mill rate increase. I think that 0.17 helps us to get to yes a little bit easier as a group.
So if it's a 0.17, if
It's only a
What-
couple of bucks. It's a 0.17. The taxes would go from 98.66 to 99.26. An increase of $60.
So
how
that's
much
understandable.
how much goes into the, I'm sorry,
Fund
how much
balance.
how much goes into the fund balance and how much would we have to pay? I guess those other two numbers.
That's a question for Anna Johnson.
So a 0.17 mil increase would be a use of 895, 429.
895, 429.
Yes.
Okay.
How about this? How about we pull, so we started at 935 and I think we went down to 880 or something like that. What if we just do 900? What if we just do 900? Call it a day. I feel like this is like horse trading. Terrible.
So
I mean,
so you're
again,
saying now the mill rate-
I'm imploring you I am imploring you to consider that there is no referendum.
I know that.
If we were to pass a budget with any increase at all, and it went to referendum, it very well could have been defeated. Now, I know Ann Santora doesn't like to get in what if scenarios, but I'm just pointing out, I feel like we need to be as responsible as we possibly can. If, you know, we're, you know, when you're talking about 800,000, 900,000, if we're going to be into trouble, we're going to need a heck of a lot more, work to be done to dig out of a hole. I mean, if we're talking about 800,000 or 900,000, this is just it's
Okay.
two psychological things. It's a psychological thing that we're growing our fund balance, which we are no matter what we do tonight. And it's a psychological impact to the people that we're trying to represent by trying to do the right thing by them during this international pandemic. So
I'm good at 1.7.
got to get that on the record.
0.17, I mean, 895, 429.
Okay. Me too. That looks okay to me.
For 900,000, 900,000.
895, 429.
We heard you once, John. I'm going to mute you if you say it again.
You know, there's always the expression close enough for government work and the other expression rounding up. If you're at 895, 429,
Yeah.
round it up to 900.
Yeah.
How much difference is it going to make to have
How about
$4,500 less?
All right, I got to mute John. All right, Peter and Ann, your turn to weigh in.
Peter.
I'm asking you to support.
They're
And-
both in the range. They're both in the range. So, you know.
Yeah,
I
we're
think
talking about,
I think we have to get a motion on the table, but
Yeah.
we're in the area that I'm comfortable with.
What's that? I'm sorry. What's the mill rate for the $900,000 if we took it out of the fund balance? It's 0.1. Anna might be able to help with that. I have so many notes.
It's between 0.16 and 1.7.
no, it's got to be close to one. It's got to be close to 0.17. We're talking about $5,000.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine.
close to 0.17.
Just bear with me. I just had a whole bunch of notes and I couldn't read. I actually had that. So thank you. Thanks. You know, I'm okay. Do the 900 even. I'm still not happy about the, you know, hundreds of thousands more that that I would be comfortable with. But we need to make some progress here as a board, and we need to move forward. You know, we're taking a bit of a gamble here. It's not, I'm not entirely comfortable, but we need to move forward. And if we're going to get stuck in, you know, in these numbers, in nuance, you know, we have a job to do. So let's move forward. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Anne.
A
Thank
wise
you.
person once told me that a budget that nobody likes is a good budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard that.
And just to sum up, I mean, I don't think anybody's really happy this year.
Right.
No matter what we do, there's people that are going to be very unhappy. So I mean,
That's
we
right.
just have to do what we really believe is the right thing. And
Sure.
it's a little bit different for each of us, but I think we have just reached a consensus. So we're looking at a 98% collection rate at a $900,000 even return to the revenues. So let's go to that revenue sheet that Anna handed out the other night. And we can make a motion on approving this revenue sheet. So Anna had highlighted the changes to this revenue sheet. They represented downward adjustments to certain revenue items. And I'm okay with her recommended reductions.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, what we would be looking to do is in account 01-08-900-051, adding $900,000 into the proposed 2021 budget. And if we did that, the final total would be, well, that's going to change the taxes on the current grant list, right? Because of the reductions we made to the expenses. So how do we do this, Anna? How do we just make a motion to approve the changes to all the other items other than the,
So, I mean, there's a couple of things. So, at this point, you haven't voted on the bottom for expenditures yet.
so we should do that first,
Um,
knowing, does it matter the order?
It doesn't. So the revenue, the bottom line on the revenues would need to be $76,191,073. So the adjustments to the accounts that you would need to make would be, you know, increasing fund balance, and then to decrease the taxes on the current levy based on the fund balance, and your bottom line would be the $76,191,073.
So if I were to make a motion, do I really need Karen? Is Karen Zimitrek? She must still be on the call.
She's
Right?
on
She
the
is,
call.
yes.
I
She's
see
good.
her.
She's good at this too. Karen, for a motion, do you recommend that I do this by account, or is it okay if I just give a bottom line number?
Karen's muted.
I know, I'm okay, I'm okay. I think, Anna, can you hear me too?
I can, yes.
Okay, hi. I don't have your new revenue sheet because I wasn't, you sent it out after I had already gone home and I wasn't working today. But, I think she can do it the way she wants to do it, and I can attach that revenue sheet to those minutes, which will indicate all the changes that you made on there.
So a high level motion to
Do you
approve the
think,
revenues.
would you agree with that, Anna?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, all right, then you can go ahead with that. That'll
So
make it
Camille-
easier and everybody can see it. If they have a question, they'll have it right in their hand.
So Camille, I could entertain a motion, or I could make a motion rather.
That would be terrific.
Okay, we'll see what it sounds like. Move to approve the East Lyme, Town of East Lyme projected revenues for 2021 as amended on today's date, May 14, to reflect a final total of $76,191,073.
And maybe include with the use of fund balance at 900,000.
Yes, with the use of fund balance in account 01, is that okay? Write that in, 0108-900-051 of $900,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Richard Steele. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. 600. We can do the CIP plan last, Anna, right? Because that doesn't affect the numbers that we've already voted on the expense side of the budget, correct?
You have them all covered, yes.
Okay. So with that, I'll ask somebody to make a motion to approve the general government town budget. As amended as of May 14th, 2020, in the total amount of
Same thing.
$76,191,073.
Yes.
Yes, Hannah.
Yeah, so at your meeting last night, you approved the the dollar decrease to the Board of Ed budget as 826,903. So my recommendation would be that you approve each, like, general government, debt service, and capital, what their amounts are.
Yes, you're right. So let's make sure I have those numbers correct. Let me just back up and see if I have those numbers correct. That would be general government, 18,851,718.
Yes.
That would be debt service, 5,817,505.
Yes.
That would be capital, 648,779.
Yes.
And that would be, well, we already made a motion to approve the Board of Ed budget the other night.
Right.
Okay. So let me try this again. I'll just make the motion and I'll give it my best shot. I, Camille Alberti, make a motion to approve the general government budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021 in the amount of $18,851,718, and the debt service budget in the amount of $5,817,505, and the capital budget in the amount of $648,779. The detail of which will be submitted with these meeting minutes. Does that sound okay, Karen Dimitrik?
Sounds okay. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ann Santoro seconds. Okay, with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 600. Thank you, everyone. So,
Capital to do.
how is everybody feeling? Should we take a break and come back and do the capital improvement plan? It's 10 o'clock. I don't imagine that would take all that long.
Why don't we just get it over with?
Okay, so no break. Everybody just wants to push on.
We get out in time for Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so
I heard that, Ann
Yeah,
Coachella.
Chicago, that wasn't helpful.
That was
Oh,
me
well,
needed to be
sorry.
on mute.
I heard that, Dawn.
I'm mute.
So, actually, there are so many changes to this capital improvement plan that I would like to actually update it with the changes that we talked about and come back and approve it.
At another meeting?
I mean, I can run down and I can tell you what I have based on our prior discussions. I mean, I guess let's take a stab at it. I mean, mine is a mess. I've got writing all over this thing. So I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. So I guess if we go one by one, you guys can point out if that's correct or not. Do you want to handle it that way?
That's okay. And I think too, is Chief Rick still on the line? Because I think he's wanting to talk about the fire engine purchase.
You
Well,
dropped
do we
on the
need
line.
him to talk? I mean, I think we've heard enough to, right?
Right. I mean, it's not necessary, but I just was wondering if he was still on the call.
I think he's probably waiting for our decision for sure. All right, so let's go down.
He says he's still
He's still
here.
here.
He says he's still here. Yeah.
Okay.
Does he need to talk?
He's waited all night.
Yeah, let's give him a chance to talk.
All three
Okay.
of us are still here if you have any questions.
All three of us are still here if you have any
Oh, those
questions.
poor guys.
I know, I
Oh
know.
my God.
All right, let's go down one by one then. Let's see. I'm gonna need some help with this, guys, and I hope you guys took notes too, because again, my only copy I have is a complete mess.
Mhm.
All right, so the first line, Assessor 102, we're okay with that $130,000. That was a reduction.
No, do we have a
No.
reduction in 70? Go ahead, Anna.
So
Yeah.
there was a reduction of 75,000, so we would only need to fund that at 55,000.
Oh, okay. I thought that
Yeah.
was the reduced amount already.
No. Mm-mm.
All right. So the $130,000 item becomes 55,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Coming down to engineering CNRE, $10,000. We left that alone in our
Yep.
discussions.
Yeah.
Coming down to townwide department replacement of computers, I believe we said this evening, let's take that down to an even 10,000.
Yes, yes.
Everybody's understanding? Okay.
Yeah.
Townwide replacement of servers, we left that at 5.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mm.
Coming down to town hall HVAC equipment, 85.
Mhm.
Yes.
Town hall renovations, drop ceiling replacement, 25.
Yes.
Yes,
Paint Brookside Farmhouse, 25.
Yes.
yes.
HVAC pump replacement townwide, 15.
Yes.
Yes.
Various townwide roof replacement, 10. Did we keep that 10 in there?
Yes.
Yes.
Capital project matching grant subsidy for 10.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're on to the police department. Computer aided dispatch and records management system. I believe a pretty strong argument was made and we were convinced to keep that in
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
it was 180.
for 180,000.
Yep.
East Lyme Waterford boat engine replacement, 8,500.
Yeah, we
Yes.
put that in, yeah.
East Lyme Police Department motor replacement, 11,721 stays.
Yes.
Yes.
APHIS prisoner processing matching. The chief recommended that we could take that out this year.
Yeah.
Do we want to move that into the 21-22 plan?
Sure, we can always move it again.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
that's fine.
we need a placeholder, sure.
Yeah, let's not lose that place. Yes, Anna.
So you may want to ask the chief, I believe that was going to be covered as part of the public safety bill, within the public safety building project.
Oh, can you confirm that, Chief Mike?
Yes, he said yes.
Oh, great. Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you.
So it's out.
So it's out completely,
Mhm.
That's right. I remember.
covered under PSB. Okay. Data replacement, the chief says that's okay to cut this year.
Yeah, I
Yes.
remember that. Yeah.
Borrowed one, yep.
So
Yeah.
we'll move that to the 2021/22 as a placeholder.
Mhm.
But he was
I
getting
thought
it
they were getting a used one from another department or something.
from the school or from public.
Yeah.
Correct.
Can move it
Can
out a
move it out a
few
few
years.
years.
Yeah, so,
Okay,
Okay.
let's put
All
it
right,
out
let's
2
move
years.
it out to 2022/23.
Yep,
okay.
Is that okay? Okay.
The acquisition plan full value will be funded CNRE 130. We didn't touch that.
Correct.
The radio upgrade, all existing mobile and portable to multi-band, we didn't touch that.
Correct.
Mhm.
The thermal imaging camera,
we kept.
we kept.
Yes.
Wasn't there some discussion about that though? Or we just kept
Yeah.
it? I remember
He
discussing.
explained it, he explained it, it was an old, new technology and
And
Okay,
it's,
all right.
and
I
it
just
was,
remember there was a discussion. I couldn't remember what it was though. All right.
I think the discussion was it's been more than 5 years since they've asked for that. So
Okay.
it's kind of a need, if I
Okay.
remember.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
couldn't remember what the discussion was. Thank you.
Okay, so here is where we adjust the turnout gear
you know,
for the Niantic Fire Department. That 12,896,
Is halved?
half.
6,448.
Yes.
We can put in the 21-22 plan, just so we don't lose sight of it. We can add the 6,448 to that 16,000. So we remember. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah. 'Cause we're
So
gonna-
the 16,000 plus another 64.48 will be a good placeholder. So that becomes 20,448 in the 21/22 plan.
Yes.
Are you good with that, Ann Santoro?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
What was that sum again? It was 16,000 plus the 6,448.
Right.
Correct.
So that's a placeholder, so we don't lose sight of that.
Yes.
All right. The fire engine for $800,000. I believe Chief Rick said we could reduce that to 700,000.
That's
Is
what
that correct,
that's what my
Chief
notes
Rick?
No,
said.
there was.
That's what I have.
Yeah,
Was
that's,
it
there's a
700?
letter. He sent out a letter that clarified
Yes,
that.
then we have the memo of 647,000 and change. So we
Yeah.
probably need to have some rounded number in there.
Yeah, I believe the number he said the other night was
It's 647 and change.
647 and
six-
change.
Yeah,
So
647.
do we put
434.
647 or do we round to 700?
Wait, it says here,
The letter has exact price.
price. So it was 647, 434.
So
640,
let's say 650,000.
Yeah,
Sounds
exactly.
All right,
That
Ann.
sounds
Deal.
Is that okay with him? Okay.
Yeah. Which-
radio upgrade all existing mobile and portable to multiband,
108094.
right?
Yep.
We left
Mhm.
that untouched.
Correct.
6,600 for 5 scuba cylinders.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yes.
Again, same thing, the 1289,896 for the turnout gear gets reduced to 64.48. And we'll add that to the 21/22 plan for a total of 20,448. So what we're doing is we're kind of pushing it out, but making sure we have that placeholder. Assorted fire hose appliance replacement, 6,000 untouched.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Radio system, new antenna and simulcast. I had a note here, that's a question for Bill Shear, but we didn't make any, yes, Anna.
So actually, those items should be removed because that's payments for prior year acquisition items. So we should just remove those.
Both of them, the 3,022
Yes, because in the past, we used to itemize all of the annual acquisition payments for equipments that we purchased in the past. And we, when we discussed it, we decided that we would list the full dollar value of the items we were purchasing in the plan. That made more sense. So once we approve the purchase of the items, then we remove it from the plan.
Okay, so you're saying 224 emergency management comes down to 0.
Yes, I'll just remove those items.
Okay. Public Works, the vehicles equipment per plan, 365,000.
Yeah, no, we changed that.
We did.
So we had a truck versus a pickup truck
Pickup.
versus a dump truck.
And then we kept the street sweeper.
So it would
Yeah,
be
I think it was a-
335,000.
How much?
335.
35. The
335, right,
for the
Yeah.
sweeper and 60 for the pickup.
right.
Right.
So we removed the 90,000 dump truck and replaced it with the $60,000 pickup, right? It gets reduced
Yep.
30,000, yep. Town sidewalk repairs, 10 grand, we kept. Improve road infrastructure, existing town roads, did we reduce that to 500,000?
Yeah.
That
There was
was
some
Joe Brigard.
documentation
Joe
about
Brigard
that,
did
yeah.
that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 950 becomes 500,000 for next year.
Mhm.
Maintenance of town-owned dams did not change. That was 15.
Correct.
Town-owned bridge culvert repairs for 10 did not change.
Correct.
Correct.
So if my numbers are correct, somebody can help me with this. That column's total becomes 870,000 for Public Works.
So you have to take away 30 plus minus.
What'd you get? What number?
870,000.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because you have to, it's minus 430,000.
Or 80.
480.
You wait, it's 480, right? Because that was, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 950, right? Okay, for that one. Sorry, got it.
Okay, on to Parks and Rec. Did we keep the Gator and the director's vehicle in there? I believe we did, right?
I believe we did as well.
Okay, and then education.
I think that, Camille, do we have to do that total of the town government requests, that sum, before you
Well,
get to the education?
Okay, I guess we'll figure that out. Yep. All right, so 55,000 for the assessor, 10 for engineering, 55, and 15 for IT, 160 for building maintenance. I'll just do this quietly. There's a couple of departments I didn't adjust.
Oh, Camille,
Yeah.
so as you were going through the CIP, I think you made it clear what the board's intent was. So maybe just make a motion to improve the CIP as discussed at the meeting.
That I actually would like to do, because if I had this on a Excel spreadsheet, it'd be a lot easier and quicker, but I'm doing this manually, and that's
Okay.
going to take me a long time.
So there's just
Yeah.
one other thing. The Board of Ed, their CIP is reflected on here, is not what they ended up proposing. So theirs is broken into 3 categories. The bonded amount is $238,610. The acquisition of technology, $1,307,825. And learn, there were a couple of items that they were recommending to use learn funds for, which is $35,500.
So what is the first one? The Board of Ed CIP bond
Yes.
is how much? 1,300,000?
No.
No.
238.
Is 238,610.
238,610 for the bond.
Yep.
Yeah.
That 44,000, that's from a prior acquisition. So those are payments.
Just get rid of that. Just get rid of all that.
All right.
Okay.
All
Across
of it?
the board, 44,000, get rid of this prior. And then, so $238,610, did you say? 610 or
Yes.
600?
610.
610.
And then the initial bonding for the elementary school was how much?
So so the amount in 2021 should be 10 million. There should be nothing in 22-23, and then in 21-22, 8,045,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that one more time?
In 21, 22, 8,045,000.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it, right? I think we went through all the changes. Okay. So does somebody want to make a motion to approve the capital improvement plan as amended this evening?
So moved.
Also, move. Oh, go ahead, Rich, you make it, go ahead.
So
So
moved.
Richard Steele makes the motion. Who second?
Ann.
We'll go with Ann C this time. Ann Chicalo seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Fine.
Motion carries 600. Okay. Well, that wasn't too bad.
And
One less thing to do on Monday.
can somebody give me a total? I know you were adding it up, Camille, on the total town government request. I know it changed. We needed a new figure. So I can scribble it on here. It's not 3
The
million
budget for the general government.
for CIP.
Oh, that'll
Does
come from Anna.
Does Anna have it on her computer? Anna, do you have it?
Yeah, I'm trying to go through and make all the changes.
Okay, can you give me that final total so I can scribble it out on my sheet and put the new one in?
Can we work on those changes and get those to you, Karen?
Sure, she can get them to me. I'll be in tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, we made the motion to approve as amended, and we went through verbally all the changes, and they'll all get recorded, and you'll get a copy tomorrow.
And Camille, could the
Yes.
board members get copies, you know, doesn't have to be tomorrow morning, but could we get copies of that revised capital?
If
Yeah.
Anna sends it to me, I'll just email it out on distribution to all of you guys.
That would be
Okay.
great. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Ann Santoro. Okay, so where does that leave us? I think we're done this evening. We did the town budget, we did the revenues, and we did the capital improvement plan. So we'll start with board well, before we get to board comments, I'll just mention, so Monday's evening, all right, let me back up. So tonight what we did was we approved the town's budget overall, every component of the town budget. There is no referendum, so what we decided this evening stands. When we come together on Monday, there'll be an agenda coming out shortly for that meeting. It is a public hearing, and what we'll start out with hearing a few words from the first selectman, then a few words typically from the chair of the Board of Education, and then I'll go through with a presentation of the budget this year, and it will be abbreviated. It'll be a little bit different than we've done from years past because I don't want to spend a lot of time on the budget. And then we're going to open it up to public comments. It'll be the first time that we do this where I'll really be focusing on the attendees that call in, and they'll raise their hand, and I'll be watching for that, and we'll give them an opportunity to speak for just a couple of minutes. And then we'll wrap up that meeting with the board comments. There won't be any changes to the budget on Monday evening. And then the last time that we'll come together is Wednesday, May 20. The last time we'll come together for this budget season is Wednesday, May 27th. And that is the date that we will set the mill rate. So that's the plan.
Is Mondays at 6:30 then?
We don't, is it
We'll set it
6:30,
up.
Anna?
Yes.
Yes, I think because we changed all those 6 o'clocks to 6:30.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay. So with that, would any member like to make a comment from Anybody for a board comment?
I guess I would just want to say thank you. I think that, you know, we really worked hard on it, and I think it's a good compromise, and I think we came to a good decision. And I just want to thank all of you guys.
I have a comment.
Yes, Peter.
I think it's great that we were able to unanimously vote on the budget, and it wasn't a split vote. I think that makes it easier to explain to the town what our rationale was. I think the challenge Monday night is going to be explaining the reserve fund and our rationale and ensuring our financial health because of the unpredictability of the financial situation over the upcoming year. And I think that's going to have to be, that was a lot of what we were debating. And I think that should be explained to the town, that was a lot of our rationale when they question tax increase. But I'm glad that we were able to come to a unanimous vote. I think that's an important message to send to the town.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Anybody else?
Oh, I'll just say, it wasn't what I wanted, but I respect everybody else's opinions, and the great thing about a group like this is you can come to a compromise.
Yeah.
And that's what is important. And I agree with Peter about Monday. We have to be able to explain to the people that call in, you know, like he said, what our rationale was and how we arrived at the numbers we did. And hopefully people will understand it. Because I know when you look at some of the comments on social media, some people are really upset one way or the other.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I hope they understand, you know, our job isn't easy. And I don't think a lot of people looking from the outside realize it.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Yep.
I want to thank all the members of the board. I think we worked together well. We had differences of opinion. Some may still be differences of opinion, but we're at least able to have the dialogue and move towards the middle, maybe a little bit more one side than the other, but you know, it's the act of compromise, and it's the act of listening and being able to voice your opinions. And I think we feel safe and free to do that. There were some difficult decisions, and I think the public oftentimes doesn't understand all the various components that are put into putting this package together. That a lot of people just look at one aspect. What's the budget? Did it increase? But as you brought up a lot, John, and you too, Ann and Anna, we have to keep the financial health of the community together in our undesignated reserve fund. So hats off to everybody. I think we did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Richard. You know, we had a very difficult job, and we still have probably some difficulty ahead. We will hear comments, and we'll have to absorb those, and you know, and deal with that as we can. But I do think we did deal with all of the challenges that we had to, you know, and I think about the mill rate, the taxpayer, all those obligations, maintaining services, not dipping too deeply into a fund balance. That would have been my preference to do that less, as you know, but there's no way to hit all the targets here. So we have to kind of shrink our goals a little bit. You know, there's no way to reach all of these and, you know, have the collection rate that we had to decide upon. So, you know, all in all, I think it's a very acceptable and thoughtful budget. I think it's very thoughtful. So I think going forward, we should be able to explain ourselves with a high degree of confidence.
Yeah,
you know.
I agree.
Thanks, Ann.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with how we did reach these compromises. you know, I'm not 100% satisfied either, you know, on the other end of the spectrum, but I am pleased how we did compromise, and we'll still be friends tomorrow, right? Anna Johnson, thank you so much for keeping us on track with all these numbers. Really appreciate it. I know it's not easy as we're asking for all these different scenarios, but it is an important part of what we do. And just in terms of, you know, resilience, in terms of feedback that we'll be getting from the public. I mean, I don't think anybody truly understands what's involved with our role. So I always harken back to one of my favorite role models, Eleanor Roosevelt, and she said, you know, just do what's in your heart, for you'll be criticized anyway. So if you just follow your gut, your heart, your soul, and you can feel good about yourself and your performance, you know, that speaks miles. So so that's it. We're done. We'll see you on Monday, the
Monday.
public hearing.
Thank you.
Alright.
Thank you, Karen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to
I'm
see
sorry.
they say, oh,
One more thing. Oh, from me and then Ann Chichello. Just on Monday, after, it's not a back and forth session with the people that call in and give us their comments. It's not a question and answer. They'll provide feedback to us. They'll give us their comments, and then we have an opportunity to respond when we get to the board comments part of our agenda. So that's typically how we handle. If we feel like something warrants a response, then we can speak to that. Okay, Ann Chichello?
sorry, I'll make this quick. I just wanted to thank Karen Zimitrick because I know she's been, you know, recording and taking the notes on all this, and I know it's difficult and it's a lot of work. So I just wanted to make a shout out to her.
Thank you. Thank you for remembering Karen. It's hard because she doesn't show up on my
I
screen,
know.
She's there. She's in the corner.
but we know she's there, and we know she works really hard to record
Yes.
all this that we're trying to accomplish. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, I guess that's it.
All right.
We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great.
I'll second.
Ann Chichello makes the motion, and Santoro seconds. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Good
Good night,
night.
everyone.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.